Okay, good evening and welcome to the Timberlane Regional School Board meeting for Thursday, November 7th, 2019. I'd like to take a moment of silence for our troops that put themselves in harm's way. Okay, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Belcher, if you could take a roll call vote, please.
Ryan Boyle.
Here.
Lee Doobie.
Here.
Kim Farah. Sheila Lowe's.
Here.
Sarah Mockamer.
Here.
Sean O'Neill.
Here.
Kristen Savage. Sue Sherman.
Here.
Jennifer Silva.
Here.
Seated at the board table this evening is Director of Pupil Personnel Services and Student Services, Susan Rassico. She'll be sitting in for Dr. Metzler, who is not here, and we are expecting Kyle Duffy later this
That
meeting.
is true. So we will fit in the student representatives report sometime in our program here this evening. So we'll move on right to the first order is approval of minutes. Start off on the October 28th, 2019 at 7 o'clock.
Good question.
Sure.
Of an audience member. This is spelling.
Okay.
Lori, how do you spell your last name?
Oh, hi. H-E-R-C-H-E-N-R-O-D-E-R.
Thank you. For some reason, it looked funny on there to me, and I was like, I don't want to have her name wrong in the minutes.
Did you hand those down, Sean? This one's for you.
I'll make a motion to approve the October 28th, 2019 minutes.
Motion is made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Kristen. Another minute or so for people to finish reading them. set? Call the question? All those in favor? One, two, three, 4, 5, 6. All those opposed? And all those abstain? 2 abstentions, so 6-0-2.
Thank you.
Move on to the draft sealed non-public ones. 9:43, session 1.
Make a motion to approve the non-public session 1 minutes of October 28th.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. I would agree too.
You thought so too? Let me just try to insert that without.
Would a friendly amendment on the item, the last sentence in there when he gives a dollar amount, just before the figure, it was up to that amount?
That's it.
I thought that's what
It was,
instead
it
of
was, it was,
at.
it wasn't at, it was up to that amount.
Okay.
It should be on here.
Where are we, back at the regular minutes?
No, no. Okay.
That's the sealed ones.
Yeah, these
Oh,
are the.
these are the sealed,
Oh, yeah.
Once, yeah.
Yeah, you-
No, it's okay.
so we've approved these, the
My
non-public
motion was
session
on the non.
on
The
the,
non-public session 1,
I said non-public.
the 9:43. You weren't here for
Isn't
that.
that what that is?
Yeah.
No.
Brian?
so I don't get a chance to look at them.
Those are the
That's
minutes
this whole
from,
set.
The ones that you just motioned to approve. Not to-
Okay,
Motion to approve, Brian,
okay.
please.
What's that? What is this?
This whole set
Where are they?
is what we've already approved. This
Yeah.
is
Did they
the
not make
public
their way
session.
around?
I think they did not
no
make their way
copies.
around.
Well, why is it-
Brian stopped right here, now that I'm realizing the pile.
I don't have any
stopped here,
piles.
honey.
Brian.
There you go, Sue.
Thank you.
So,
Brian.
Brian, you are on
Rude.
such a good roll too tonight.
Oof.
did I just steal your minutes from you?
Okay, so can we change that to up to?
So
Sue,
what is
do you
this?
know what we're talking about
No,
right
we're
now?
we're on non-public session 1 minutes.
Yes.
Motion was made by Brian, seconded by
Me.
Kristen, thank you.
And the rest of us just got them. Can we
No,
take a sec?
No, I'm just trying to walk everybody to where we stand right now.
Yeah. I don't think that you need to amend anything. I think that's just a minor correction.
Okay, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Sentiment.
Very last.
Gotcha. Because it wasn't on this set.
Why is this saying non-public?
Because that's, we motioned to go in,
Hmm?
and we came up with the minutes because they're sealed, don't go into this, because this is the public record that goes in, this is the public
Okay.
record of our meeting.
All right.
Just stick
Okay,
with us,
Counsel.
Brian.
So that's
We'll
like,
keep-
Okay,
that
Counsel.
is like this little excerpt coming out of here that's there.
Okay,
So
dokie.
this was. I love you, Brian.
Okay.
So with that correction? Oh,
Yeah, it's gonna be with,
Yeah.
with that correction. Minor Scribner's error.
All right.
Everybody sat down at the other end of the table that just got the minutes? Okay. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes. Call for a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstain? 6-0-2.
he's gotta go back, right?
They
Yeah,
do.
let's go back.
That's the next that way.
Oh,
That's my
Oh, one of those.
You do have.
All right, now we'll go on to session 2.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes of non-public session 2 of October 28th, 2019.
Motion is made and seconded. Call for a vote. All those in favor? All those opposed? All those abstaining? 602. And those are public ones, so you don't need to pass them down. Okay, our student representative, as I said earlier in our program, that we're going to be, when Mr. Duffy comes back from his event, we'll fit him in. And we'll move on to our delegates and individuals. Do we have anybody this evening, Mrs. Boucher?
No, we do not.
Okay, we'll move on to our next one, which is current business. Ratification of the TSSU CBA. Okay. Do you have those, a copy of those?
I do.
Thank you.
Red line.
Thank you. You want to pass down? This is the same copy as the ones that I mailed on out. Brian, since you were, you and Susan, excuse me, you, Sarah,
Sarah,
and Kim were the ones that negotiated this contract on behalf of the board and the district. Would you mind, Brian, reading through the summary?
The summary? I'd be happy to. Okay, what the board has in front of them tonight is a 2-page summary. This is for the TSSAU contract after a brief and successful negotiation, if you will. What these 2 pages represent are the highlights. Obviously, this is a pretty, what we got here? Multi-page contract here, but this is Attorney O'Shaughnessy came up with a little 2-page summary, and essentially what we gave and negotiated with the union is we added language consistent with our teachers that gives them additional rights for just cause to challenge any disciplinary actions. Under wages, year number 1, a 2.5% COLA. Year number 2, a 3.5% COLA. Year number 3, a 3.5% COLA. Health insurance, we negotiated a match with our teachers. So for different providers, we increased their health insurance to match the teachers. We also had increases for length of service, 15 to 20 years, an hourly type thing. And there was some, there's some small things that went through it, but basically what we're recommending is a group here to put in front of the voters the first year, because this is a much smaller group than our teachers. So the first year impact, the warrant article, is $305,643.73. The second year is $242,920.99, and third year, $231,637.82. So the total 3-year cost of this warrant article is $780,206. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that we recommend and ratify this agreement and get it to the ballot.
Second.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded. Any comment? I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Yeah, you can keep that. Okay, elementary action plan. Elementary?
So I'll yield my time to the elementary action plan. See, that was less than 10 minutes.
Good evening, ladies.
that, Dean. Don't panic. We're good. We got it.
I'm gonna take a
Good
deep
all
breath.
night. It's raining outside. No one wants to go outside anyway. There are 6 PowerPoints this evening.
Okay, yeah, this.
Sandown Central.
Oh, the laptop's not working? We'll see.
Got it right up there.
Oh, it'll be 4. Yeah, they're gonna do 4 first. Number 4.
Yes, that's you.
There you go. Excellent.
Here we go.
Yeah, really.
We have to discuss this because
Yeah, just to see.
appointment that we made last time.
Nice sign.
Stop over there, please.
That's the one
Mind your
we did
manners.
like 6 years ago. Is it lit, is it not lit, is it gonna be?
Very nice.
You mean I'm supposed to put it on?
It's on the CIP, it's
Okay.
not on the CIP.
Chocolate donut on the way over. That was good.
Okay, so we can start. I'm Jen Marino. I am the principal at Sandown Central. This is my 3rd year in the district and 3rd year at Sandown Central. So I'm going to talk a little bit today about our previous 18-19 school action plan and school goals and our future ones for this year, 19-20. So I just want to point out that I am representing the school, but I work with such a dynamic group of staff. So this is a culmination of everything that they do. So I am speaking on behalf. I work with some wonderful people who we know our why, which is always what do we do, what is best for kids. So, and the picture before you is something we have this year, which we loved, was because we are on Main Street. So we have our signage, which is something great. It's a great communication tool. And for our school motto this year, that's what we put with. As you know, we're the little owls, so we have a lot of puns and twist with the word owl, so always lead with kindness. Kindness is one of our goals. So, that was a picture from this fall. So let's talk about our 18-19, our school motto of last year, something that drives us. So we work as a team and we talk about what is our school motto. And we talked about what would an owl represent, OWL, and that is helping students become open to new ideas, wise beyond their years, because if you talk to a 5-year-old, they do know everything, and they learn from each other, which is peer-to-peer interaction. And we have, as we call our building the foundation building, we take the 3s, 4s, and 5-year-olds, and we are the first experience of school and how to help parents and children have a wonderful experience with us. So we always say life of an owl begins here, and then it would end when they go to the high school as the bigger owls. So let's talk about our 3 school goals from 18-19. So our first goal was by June of 2019, 65% or more of all kindergarten students at TLC Sandown Central will have met the student growth percentile expectation of 50 points or greater in the area of early literacy. So that is measured by STAR. So STAR at this age group, it does look at math and literacy. And so the reflection was, this is our 2nd year as this goal. I should mention that. Going into our 3rd year, we like to keep our goals the 3 to 5 year range to tweak the actions with them and the steps we take to reach the goal. But the goal is to have true data should be represented for 3 to 5 years. So we always say we want to get great at something good. And so we like to keep our goals similar. So in reflection, over 1/3 of our students made that 50-point growth, according to STAR. And we wanted to look at some other data points for our kids. And so and I'll talk a little bit more about Heggerty after, but that is a phonemic awareness assessment. And all our students, when they take it, made significant growth through the Heggerty screener. And that is it's a dyslexia screener that K-1 students take. There's now an RSA for it. And to make sure we have early detection if there's any dyslexia in students. And we like that test in a way because STAR is taken on a computer, and and the dyslexia screener or the Heggerty screener is done one-to-one with the child. So you really get a good picture. Sometimes at this age, kids, sometimes we don't know if they're just clicking the answers. So one-to-one with an adult, it's easier to have some real clear data. And then reflecting over the past few years, we have it's called Fontes and Pinnell, where a student ends kindergarten, they should be at a level D or higher, which means they're an emergent reader. And in this past year, we had close to 75% of students at a level D, where in the previous years, we were closer to 50%. So we're really proud of that. So our second goal, TLC at Sandown Central will focus on developing positive learning environments and students' social and emotional skills. And because we talk about that, students don't always know their feelings, so it's important for us to look at that. So our reflection, so teachers and paraeducators had training through Cassie Yackley. She works with UNH, and they implement strategies and to teach all of us. We had paras and staff had training. We opened it district-wide for anyone working with students aged 8 and under, and they talked about how to work with kids that have behaviors stemming from trauma. And that was really a good benefit from last year. There were actually 3 separate trainings. We had a district-wide parent fair, and that it was helped to picture. It was more like our teachers had stations, so it was centers, kind of how we have our classrooms, and parents can come in and go to different stations, and they had handouts and talking to parents about having structure at home, whether it's with reading to students, having students have routine and being able to follow things at home. So it was a real nice parent link. We also opened it up to the preschools in the local area because they tend to feed to our school. So it was a pretty open, really community feel for that. One thing that we love, because the school in previous years was more of an upper elementary grade level, we are now working hard to change the building and the playground area to support a 3, 4, and 5-year-old. Our library tables were totally changed, so now the kids could sit. Just those little pieces that we've been advocating for that really has helped. And something we're really proud of is our productive play bin. So their kit's probably about half the size of this table, and in it has a tremendous amount. There's bakery kits, construction kits. We have a whole closet filled, and they have areas in a preschool classroom or a kindergarten classroom where kids can go to actually have productive play, and I'll talk more about that. And what we actually had some visits from other school districts because they were impressed on how we were using them. And our focus for last year was turn taking. We pick a skill and try to have students do that because it's where we say we're trying to prepare them for kindergarten and first grade, but these are also lifelong skills, and turn taking is obviously one of them. To wait till someone's done talking, or it's okay to not win everything. That's definitely a life skill. And our third goal from last year was staff and students will continue to focus on building and demonstrating a strong school climate and culture, and the reflections there. So although we do not have, so to have data coming back from Tripod, you need 10 classrooms that have taken that. Now last year we had 4 kindergarten classrooms take that. So we don't get a formal report, but we do follow what the other elementary schools do, and we selected challenge from the 7 Cs. And you might say, well, how can you really challenge someone that young? What we like to do is have higher level questioning. That means that we ask questions that don't have a one-word answer, like a yes or a no. And so I can share a quick story. So challenge, we had preschool 4s, they had a bakery set. So they're all proud and they're in there, and I came in and they had their hats on in the cash register, and there's cute little, it's fake, it's not real, but they had cupcakes and cake, and I go up and they're like, oh, how can we help you, Mrs. Marino? And I said, oh, wow, this stuff looks great. I said, but I really don't want dessert. What can you give me? And they looked at me like, why does she not like sugar? But I said, I really can't eat it. What can you give me? So they huddled together, students of all different learning backgrounds, and they were talking. And after a few minutes, they came up and they said, here's what we got for you. And it was a piece of toast. So what you can say is, I didn't give them a yes or no, like, yes, I'll take the cupcake, or yes, I'll take the bagel. They had to work together as a team. And then they had to charge me, which was fine, and I had my fake money. And so this is how we have kids. Not only could they work with me, but they had math, they had communication skills. So these are things that they do in a classroom, and it's pretty fun. So some other things that we did to build community, we had our fall pumpkin STEAM events where we have pumpkins and apples donated from local orchards, and the kids have parents come in, and we do like sinking the pumpkins or throwing the pumpkins or rolling the pumpkins. We cut a giant pumpkin. How many small pumpkins could fit in where the kids can guess? I did order some new school spirit wear, again, using the owl word. It says owl, I'm owl about Sandown Central. And they liked that. We got a mascot, and we had planting where the community came in and planted and cleaned up the playground. And all staff this year, or last year, we made sure that everyone was contributing to a PLC. That means all related services. Even our custodians were part of a PLC at some point, so that everyone we're on the same page. And our wellness committee, which is a fun committee for us, but they plan monthly events for staff, and we have a thing, we call it Fry-Yay. So we have Fry-Yay foods, so everyone kind of has like a potluck lunch, and we do Jeans for a Purpose on Friday, so they can contribute with bringing in canned goods, so they're allowed to wear jeans, and then we donate everything that they brought into the town. So, what I like to do at the end of the year, I always like to say, tell me what you thought was great about the year. And so this is their words, these are not mine. So one part they loved was that our Sandown Central Library was open, and students now were able to have takeout books, which if you ask a kindergartner or a 4-year-old, it's a pretty big deal. They have their own bag, they can pick a book, and we see it's their first line of responsibility and credit. It's the first chance that they are now, that's your book, that's responsible, and they know if it gets a rip, it has to go to the book, the boo-boo hospital for books, and they learn to, it has to be back in before you get another one, so it's a good skill for our students. They did talk about the Cassie Yackley professional development that I brought up before. Our new playground equipment was a big hit because we have such a huge, our population keeps growing, and so we needed to add on to that. And one great thing that they talked about, our OT and PT teachers built a sensory room. And so that's when a student needs a little bit of a brain break. They go to a room, and they have what's called a sensory diet card where they go in and they may need to work in the Play-Doh for a bit just to get their wiggles out, or they might need a quiet spot where there's soft music and they get to, trace the lines, or just something to help them get refocused to then go be able to learn. And that was a big one. And here's just some pictures. There's a horrible picture of myself with the mascot, but they wanted to pick that in. There's some of our school staff with their spirit wear. And then that picture on the left is our preschool, and we could talk something they loved last year. We did a fairy tale ball. And so that was really great. So a few more points. So our big partnership last year, and I know I brought it up, the Rock Church had donated a laminator, which was close to $2,000 because we had needed one. The town library had come. We have a partnership because we're right next to each other. We use them a lot for parking, but besides that, we did joint shows with puppeteers coming in. They taught kindergarten about drama. It was a really good partnership, and now we have volunteer groups as parents that come in every day of the week. We have a room, and they come in and laminate and copy and just work to help the teachers as well. Our Halloween parade, which we just had one last week, is a big tradition. The kids love that. Whenever I ask them, our Polar Express, which will be coming up soon, we have a conductor come in and he reads the Polar Express, and the kids get hot cocoa and cookies that are donated from Triple Elm right next door. And I mentioned our pre-K fairy tale ball where they have a month-long literacy that's taught through the fairy tales, and the kids like that. Our spirit wear was a big hit, and I know I'm sitting here with Sandown North, our sister school, but we've had a lot more discussions last year of how to help the K-1 transition for staff and students and families, and that was great. And a highlight at the end of last year, our enrollment was so high that we had to open another full-day kindergarten, a full 16 students extra from the previous year, so that was a great highlight. So let's talk about this year. So where are we headed? So to keep our goals consistent, we have, looking at our data, so by June of 2020, 50% more or more of the TLC at Sandown Central kindergarten students will have met the student growth percentile of 50 points, as I talked about. But this time we're adding in the Hegarty screener because that gives such a little bit more data that we like to see for kids. It gives a bigger picture, and I really feel like it would, and we feel like strongly from our leadership team that it would give us more, just more perspective of students and how to help them if they need intervention. And so our action steps, as I said, according to RSA 200, we have to make sure all K students are screened, and so we will include that. Steps will be taken to support intervention, as we usually do through our RTI and PLC work. We have training this year that has been established for helping teachers with writing, and we have been working, our kindergarten teachers have been working with the literacy specialists from Sandown North, which has been great, and they help to support our teachers here. And our second goal. And this year, TLC at Sandown Central, we will focus on developing positive learning environments and student skills through productive play and multisensory instructional practices. So we tweaked that a little bit with our wording. And so with our goals, so we are looking at captivate and care from our 7 C's. And to captivate, you might say, well, what would you do at that age level to captivate? Because their attention span is not high, and we want to teach stamina with students, we are looking at captivate. How can we captivate their attention and really build in stamina? In care is how do we help parents? Because this is, again, their first chance at school. And so to really have a wraparound services for families. And so I'm not sure if you're familiar with RSA 193 -E. That's what it talks about when we're talking about captivating. It's multisensory. So real briefly, I just want to share. It was brought out last year, and it talks about play-based kindergarten. And it says, educators should develop literacy through guided reading and shall provide unstructured time for the discovery of each child's individual talents, abilities, and needs. And further down, it talks about rigorous structure and heavy curriculum are not intended to be part of the kindergarten experience. Rather, educating kindergarten-age children can be done through social imitation, learning through expression, and unstructured play within the classroom setting. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to give them Legos and be like, have at it, we're going to go have a cup of coffee. It just means that they are going to work of making sure that what we instruct is multisensory, that it can be getting their attentions hands-on. So STEAM, as we talk a lot about in all grade levels, is a great way to do that. We've looked at flexible seating and be able to have kids have movement within their day. So that's a way we're hoping to captivate the attention and really get the stamina and have them be able to be really prepared for first grade. We actually had this at our staff meeting on Monday. We had training for all staff and again, continuing the training that we've been doing in dealing with children facing trauma. And we just had a session on hope and how even though a student may be struggling in class, some teachers now being asked to do a lot in the classroom, there's a high burnout rate with teachers and how to really instill hope. So it was really good. It had a reflection page. So we're really working on that this year to support teachers in the classroom. And one part now that our library is functioning, fully functioning, we want to have a makerspace. And so I always think of it, if you go into Barnes & Noble, they have all the books area, but then they have headphones, and they have an area where kids play with Legos, and they really have creativity. We have magnets where the kids could put letters and words together. So that's the space we're working on this year. And again, talking about our great productive play bins, we're going to keep our inventory. We're going to build our inventory. One thing that the kindergarten kids love is more of a movie star kit where they have a microphone and music instruments and something they're looking into. And that now we are sharing them district-wide. So other preschools within the district come in and they are able to rent them out. And our third goal in this year, staff and students will continue, which I always think is important, to focus on building and implementing a strong school climate and culture. So building on what we did last year. One thing we're doing this year, and we were great, the Rock Church has been great. They came in over in May of last year, and they painted one of our rooms, and we're making that our parent resource room. And what that means, a lot of our students are identified in the building, but if they have a diagnosis, so it could be autism, it could be ADHD, it could be whatever their diagnosis is a way for parents to come. It's very well set up. We have books, a whole library, and information that parents could come in. So for example, last year we had a parent whose child was just diagnosed with ADHD. She was really overwhelmed, not sure, how do I support my child? And I said, well, here's some literature, see if this helps you. And we let them take it out for a month. They come back in. And our hope is a parent resource room is they can come in alone, but to also build it so that if they have other parents that are facing the same issue, that they could come in, not even have us there, but they can use that as a place. They can have coffee. We have a couch, lights. It's really well set up. There's a little area for kids to play, and they can come in and have fellowship because parents also still need fellowship. Raising kids, as we know, is a challenge. We want to be able to help. And so sometimes we do FaceTime with parents as well. So it's something we're really proud of and we're building up this year. And the school, our next bullet, they will continue to build our relationships within the town. We just had our Halloween, it was great. Our Sandown PD came and they gave gift bags to every child. Even they voted and they gave prizes to the best teacher, costumes that were dressed up. Luckily, I was able to make the cut, so I was pretty proud about that, because I do love Halloween. We worked with Triple Elm, and if you're not sure what Triple Elm is, it's actually a coffee and little cafe that's right next door, and they have great ice cream. So we partnered with them, and when we have a student in our school, and part of our school is respect, safe, and kind, and when they they're doing that, a teacher can give them a hoot note, again, working on the owl. So it's a little hoot note, and it highlights what they did well. They come down to the office. They're really proud today. We actually had 3 hoot notes come down, and they say, what you did. Oh, I was really kind because I did this. We make a big deal. I sign it. The parents get to see it at home. But they also get a ice cream coupon, so they get a free ice cream when they go to Triple Elm. And I've asked the Triple Elm staff that whenever a student comes in, you must ask them what did they do to earn that. So it's a nice little partnership. They also, as I said, donate when we have parent events, or they come and bring ice cream at times, or they have given us coffee and donuts. And let's see, our Wellness Committee will continue to foster our Fun Fridays. Parents are part of my building leadership team, so they're able to come in, and when we have monthly meetings, we had a lot of parent voice in our SEL, which is social emotional, our mission statement for last year. They helped to build it and talked about it. And students have, now this year we did something different. Every classroom, whether they're 3, 4s, or 5s, they have a classroom hootie. And what that is an owl. And the preschool gets to, when they, as a whole class, so a hoot note can build on individual students. But as a whole class, a student in the preschool will get a feather for them doing something well. And so they build their hootie. And I have a picture I can show next. So you'll see the third one in kindergarten, make wise choices. So it's a puzzle piece that is a class, if they're doing something well, they get to put the puzzle piece in the last part, because we always talk about kindness. The last puzzle piece is the heart. And when they do that, they earn a reward, whether it's extra recess, pajama day is a big one. They have extra choice time at the centered area, so they get to earn that. And the other 2 pictures, I could show you some of our playground equipment. That's our staff. The kids weren't there. That's not like we were playing and they weren't, but we took a group photo. And then our side room, the middle picture is from our library, which is when we have Guest Reader Friday. And that was actually Dr. Wilson last year came in to read, and the kids were sitting on the rug. And that is it for now.
Anybody have any questions?
I heard you mention a lot about play-based kindergarten, not rigorous instruction, and I've seen a lot of parents and had a lot of parents ask about and asking one another about the kindergarten programs within the district and if they're play-based, and the dialogue amongst the parents seems to be more that it's not play-based and it is more rigorous instruction. And if that's not really the case, is there a way to kind of get that out into the community so that they're more aware, or is that a more recent shift? Or
I know the RSA came out in August of 2018, so I don't know if it's something we just maybe communicate it better with them. I mean, I can only speak for our building, but we can communicate that better with parents. We can talk about that.
It sounds like maybe something a little bit newer that parents who went through it years ago.
I think compared to like I myself, when I went to school, it was like just, all I remember is coloring. That's all I can remember, and recess, to be quite honest.
Sandbox.
And yeah, the sandbox, and that my teacher smelled like halls the whole time. Like, I don't remember too much else, but I know now there's a lot in the day. I mean, it is true. There's definitely
Yeah, that's what I've heard
a
parents
stronger
say,
curriculum.
Yes, there's a strong curriculum.
And
there's
it's
a lot
how do
of
we
work
how do we
done in a
balance
short
that,
period of
which
time.
take the curriculum, but also make it, that's what we talked about, like captivate them, make it so it's engaging and it doesn't feel like you're really learning.
Yeah, no, I was
But
happy
you
to hear
are.
that. I hope, I don't know how many people watch the meetings, but I hope they tuned in and were listening. I'll certainly share this
Yeah.
segment with
It's
them.
neat,
to
I think, to watch
tune
the
in.
students and how they work, like even in the productive play area, it just fascinates. I mean, you see their favorite is the science one, where they're literally in a head to toe, like in a astronaut costume, or digging, and they dig for dinosaur fossils. It's pretty creative. But they're still learning because we incorporate math and literacy in that,
Yep.
and they get to see it. But it's a great question.
Thanks.
First, congratulations, you've done an awful lot in a very short period of time. It really
I
is
can
an
share that
excellent
with the
program.
team.
So I do want to give you kudos first off. Do we get the STAR assessments from the schools? We do? When, is that part of the assessments?
Anyone can hear me.
Well, they're pointing, they're kind of showing at you, so that's why I'm asking.
It can be. It had not been last year, but it's certainly something that we can include. We are on the schedule for December 5th
Right,
to
but
present
what
on
I'm-
assessments, and we'd be happy to include that.
So the December 5th, this is some of the, I thought we were gonna be getting all this so that's why we
No,
actually had to push this out. But so the assessments that we'll have, that you're gonna give us a report on the 5th of December, that's gonna include an evaluation of that data, but we're gonna also get the raw data as well.
Let me, over here, sorry.
Can I just finish?
Still stairs. So the our intention, we talked about this through the Curriculum and Assessment Committee when we received the school board goals back in September. And you, if you remember, pushed back your deadline for those goals to December 15th. So we'll be presenting this evening on goals 2 and 3, and the goals 1 and 4 that pertain to that assessment data we planned for December. That being said, SAT state assessment data is still embargoed by the Department of Education, so we're not able to share that with you until it is released. So we're awaiting that. I believe that will be prior to December, so we should be able to share that with you. And we can also share STAR data. We can include that. The raw data we can share. We will have to remove all personal identifiable information from that.
I mean, we're not gonna want, at least I know I don't want, an individual student and I wanna see it, the raw data coming from the assessment agency so that we as a
Sure.
board can look at
That
that.
data, more often than not, comes in the form of individual isolated student data
Right.
at every grade level. So we then, that's the work that we do, is we take that data, we sort it, we analyze it, we compile it, tabulate the results, and that's why we give you the presentation. So there's quite a bit of work associated with that. We're happy to give you the raw data, but it is likely going to be, many pages of individual grade level reports. So happy to share that, though, if that's
Okay,
what you would
no,
like.
thank you.
Yep.
Sheila?
Finish what I started.
You asked about STAR data,
Right.
is how you started.
I want to finish
Yes.
what I started,
Yep.
though. It seems to me that every one of these action plans have something with the STAR data in here and the percentages that you're getting from the STAR data, whether it be reading or math, correct? Okay. What I'm personally looking for is, you have an overall percentages here, that you have a goal of one thing, but the actual was a different. That's what I'd like to see. But I'd like to see years, like 17, 18.
Yep.
So
And
that we
that's
can
what,
see what the trends are.
absolutely, and that's
so
what
that-
we could bring in a report.
The reason why
Be
I'm
happy to
asking
do
is
that.
that
Yep.
I'd like to know, if you need help. I need to see it.
Yep, absolutely.
I need to see the trends and see what's going on.
Sure.
To figure out how can we assist you.
Yep.
Well, then that could be
So,
the same kid data, The 17 is not the same children as 18.
I understand that.
But
Okay, okay.
If I may, in the report, we typically present a 5-year trend of scores. That's what you'll be seeing tonight later on for AP scores. We'd be happy to do that with STAR, and we can also track that by cohort. So we can do it that way. The raw data, again, we're happy to provide that. Will not give you that lens, if that is what you were looking for.
I understand.
But we're happy to share that as a backup if you'd like to kind of cross-check that. Happy to do that. So.
And actually, the very first one actually took one of my questions away because those percentages, I looked at this last week. And I'm trying to, I'm sitting here trying to figure out, okay, where are these numbers coming from?
Yep, sure.
And that's what I was trying to get at with, the STAR. I'd like both the math and the literacy, if we could get it,
We can share that, sure.
if we could.
Yep,
Um,
that is available, so we can prepare that for December.
That's what I'm personally looking for, that in the state assessments, of course.
Sure,
But
and we'll have to wait until those are
it just helps me
released- get
understand this
released.
plan better.
Sure,
It helps me understand these plans.
yes.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you. We're on to the next one.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. I'm Nancy Stafford. I'm the principal at Sandown North. This is my second year as principal, and I'd like to introduce Megan Guanci. She's my new assistant principal this year, and I'm thrilled to have her. She's already had an incredibly positive impact on our school community and has fit right in and really made such a point to get to know all of our staff and students, so I'd like to start by thanking her for that. So at Sandown North, our mission is challenging learners to succeed in a respectful environment, and I just want to point out, too, that when you're hearing these presentations tonight, you are going to hear similar themes from the schools, and as administrators, we communicate regularly, we collaborate. In addition, our teachers really enjoy having the opportunity to work across schools. And in fact, in October, our Professional Development Day, teachers were given that opportunity to work different grade level, same grade levels, different schools. And that's always nice because sometimes they feel a little bit like islands. So it's nice when they have that opportunity to work together. So I'm going to be reviewing our the last year and then giving a preview of this year. Last year, at the beginning of the year, we began by, at opening day, spending some time talking about the importance of remembering our why and thinking about why we became educators. And it was interesting because one of our art teacher, Allison Linehan, is fantastic. And shortly after our opening day, when we spent some time on this topic, she came to me and said, I found this great art activity I'd love to do with the staff. And we thought, let's do it in April when people might start forgetting a little bit about their why and to kind of get that back. So what they did was they created these great pieces of art. I'm going to let Meg explain a little bit more about it.
So each teacher had to basically create either a sentence or a phrase that's centered upon their why. Why is it that they're here in our building working with our kids? Why is this important to them? One example is, I am here to connect and spark others to make their mark, to share and inspire. So, you know, this is something that now, right when you walk into our school, this is what all our visitors are greeted with. This is what all our kids see when they walk in. This is what our staff walks in and sees every day too. And it's a really nice way, walking in and out, to remember that why piece. And, you know, even though I wasn't there last year and some of our new staff wasn't there last year, this is an activity that myself and others are going to be partaking in and adding our whys there too, because we feel like it's truly important to remember that.
We are a PBIS school, and each year we have fun kind of coming up with different themes. And last year's theme was Camping Under the Stars. And we're always working at being safe, trustworthy, always respectful and responsible. The teachers did a fantastic job embedding the theme in all that they did, all aspects of the school, throughout the school, in the classrooms. We started our school year, our guiding theme, our book has been The North Star by Peter Reynolds, and it's about a boy who's on a journey and different paths he takes. And we started the school year with all staff members receiving a copy of the book, and they really, again, embedded it into their classrooms. This is a picture of actually in a second grade classroom. The teacher would turn the lights out and the kids would read by flashlights, and so they got into that and enjoyed that a lot. I'm going to be reviewing our goals from the 2018-2019 school year, and our first goal is was around math. by June of 2019, 60% of more of grades 1 through 5 students will have met the student growth percentile expectation of 50 or greater. And again, this is measured by the STAR math assessment. So the goal was 60%. At the end of the year, we were close, but we were at 56%. So our teachers really have spent time reflecting on the data and continuing, they're continuing to address this, this area. And Meg's going to talk a little bit more about what we're doing in terms of our action plans around this.
So in order to try to meet that, one of the things that happened was expanding guided math instructional strategies, and we're really proud of the work that took place with guided math instruction, making sure that student learning is relevant and meaningful for all students. We also looked at developing RTI practices that target specific skill areas, developing targeted performance tasks that factor in real-life applications. So, for example, in 3rd grade, the students were tasked with having to create a Thanksgiving meal for their whole class. They had to plan Thanksgiving. So they had to find out how many people were coming. They had to take the flyer, figure out how many pounds of turkey needed to be served, how to budget for the meal. So they really utilized math skills and applied it in a real-life setting that they would have to use later in life. So it was a really great experience for those students, and that's just one example of some of these performance tasks that were created to help target. And in addition to that, there was also planned colleague classroom visitations to increase repertoire of teaching strategies. Some of the best ways to learn and to improve as a teacher is to see what other teachers are doing and to be able to communicate and to see that in action. So that's something that we take great pride in.
Teaching and learning was our second area. Sandown North focused on cultivating positive learning environments within each school community, and we looked at the Tripod Student Perception Survey around this, as well as the completion of several events and activities throughout the school year. Teachers were really focused on ways to increase personal learning opportunities for our students, and this included multiple ways of finding ways to connect with our students. In terms of the Tripod 7 Cs, the one we were focused on was consolidate, so helping students to organize the content and make connections in ways that make it easier for them to remember. And really build upon their learning. If students perform better with, a deeper understanding, then the students are much better prepared to be critical thinkers, and also it really helps in terms of their enjoyment of what they're learning, is what we've found. So around this, we did show improvement around consolidate, and felt really good about that. A little later on, we're going to be talking about what we spent time as a staff going over the survey and looking at the different areas, looking at the improvements we made, and then looking at those areas where we want to grow a little more and focus on a little more, and we'll be talking about that a little later.
So part of the action plan to hit that goal focused upon engaging students through experiences. Again, really, you're going to hear this word a lot, personalization, and it's really important being able to tailor students' learnings to them, what they need, what their skill set is. And so one example of this, our grade 2 team last year, they had to create a school. And so they had to decide what their school would teach, what would they assess. They had to draw a blueprint of the skill. This was one of the students' favorite projects, and they took great ownership and pride over it and went way above and beyond the expectations of the teachers. And again, I think it just goes to show that if we can create some of these experiences and opportunities for our students, they're going to just take the ball and run with it. So that's just one example to highlight there. In addition to that, there was additional professional development in the areas of math and science. Across the district, teachers received next generation science standards training. So those are for teachers in grades 3 through 5. Again, the guided math training to help expand those math teaching strategies as well. Full steam ahead. So one of the things that we take great pride in is our STEAM activities that we were able to offer last year and are continuing to offer again this year. Last year, our enrichment teacher held a Makerspace Day. It was a full school thing, a full school event that occurred. We had outside presenters coming in, Techsploration and Top Secret Science and Math had visited. They shared about machines and utilized hands-on activities with the students. They also had students do make and takes that involved magnets and circuits. We also had Mr. Costato from the high school come over, and he did some improv workshops with our students. We utilized engineering as elementary kits from UNH. Upper levels did that with their classroom teachers. And in addition to that, you'll see the picture on the bottom here are two of our students. They created a fashion show where they designed their own clothing. And it was something that was such a huge hit. We weren't anticipating that it's now going to be an annual event at our school. And then on top of that, on the far right top corner here, those are 5th graders who created their own arcade games. So again, they had to come up with, what that game would entail, design it, and then actually create it.
Our last goal was around culture and climate, and was our social emotional learning goal. And we started our school year last year with a training and presentation put on by some of our special educators and included our school counselor around social emotional learning. It fit in really well with our theme of camping under the stars. And we did a lot. We've always done a lot around students learning different strategies around self-regulation and using tools, but we really expanded it. Each of the classroom had regulation stations that the teachers took a lot of time teaching the children about the different tools within the regulation station. We also had things set up throughout our building so students could go outside of the classroom if they needed some type of regulation break. We really normalized it because it should be there for everyone. We all have, I often have a pen in my hand, or we all use tools throughout the day to kind of help us regulate. And this year our occupational therapist has actually created these stations literally from one end of the school to the other, and it's great to see. She's done a lot of training with staff on how to use them, and then the teachers walk their classes through, and there's a yoga one, and they're just quick, like literally 20 seconds, 30 seconds that the kids can do these things. But it's wonderful to see, and we often see staff using them. So in terms of the action plans that we used around that for many, many years now, we've been having our Monday morning meetings. It's how we begin our week together as a school community. Our 5th graders are the hosts, and we celebrate our learning. One of the things we introduced last year and continued this year is Music Monday. If you ever pull up to Sandown North on a Monday morning when buses are emptying, you'll see us. The music's playing and we're dancing, and it's a really great way to. In fact, I thought Monday we don't have school. We might have to have like Tuesday tunes or something. I don't know. We also started another tradition of a student-faculty basketball game, which was a big hit last year with our 5th graders. I mentioned that we used our North Star book last year at the beginning of the year and throughout the year, and our 1st graders for their 1st grade play actually did the North Star. There's a musical that goes along with it, so they did the North Star musical at the end of the year. I started having parent coffee and conversations last year. It's just very informal, but had them a few times during the year. And Meg and I are continuing with that this year as well and have had one. Our rollouts that we have around our PBIS were around social emotional learning. And Jen had mentioned we were really pleased to start having PLCs together with our first grade team and our kindergarten, and we're continuing that this year. It's really important. Those kiddos are our kiddos, and so Jen and I and Meg are working really hard for that connection.
So our new theme for this year is Be a Sandown North Community Hero. And what that entails is helping everyone respect others. And so to kind of kick that off, oops. There, no, we're good, we're good.
Okay.
So we're going to come back to that in a little bit about how we're weaving that in, but.
Oh, do you want me to go back?
No, we're good, we're good. So for our goals for math this year, we're going to be looking at, by June of 2020, 80% or more of all grades 1 through 5 students will have met the expectation of 50th percentile or greater in the area of math as measured by the STAR Math Assessment. And our action steps in order to meet that goal, we're going to be looking at professional development and resources. So one of the things that one of the opportunities that some of our staff had the opportunity to do this summer was the OGAP training, which is the ongoing assessment project. And some of our staff members in our building took part in this. It was a week-long training that focused on teaching strategies that are research-based and to help us effectively teach math. So while not all of our teachers have been trained in this, our colleagues have been sharing with one another and utilizing some of the practices from it. So things like work sample sorts we've been doing in our PLCs, and then talking about like what would be our next instructional steps for students who are at a certain area within math. So that's just one example of how we're looking at professional development and resources, and also our RTI pieces. We're also looking at personalization blocks and how we utilize them in our school. So the personalized learning block consists of 30 minutes for ELA and 30 minutes of math, where students are specifically working on their skills in those subject areas, and the teacher's helping to push them forward. So they get their core instruction separate from that. It's an additional piece. In addition to that, we're also trying to continue to create and discover other means to progress monitor students in addition to utilizing the STAR assessments. So some of our teachers are utilizing Easy CBM, which is an RTI program. We're trying to create more authentic teacher assessments. And again, just continuing to collaborate with one another so that we can best meet our students' needs.
I had mentioned earlier that last year the focus was on consolidate, and then when we looked at the tripod data at the end of the year, we wanted our focus for this year to be around Captivate. And when we look at Captivate, it's making sure our lessons are really relevant, which in turn obviously helps cultivate curiosity and encourages students to ask questions. Also, Captivate really ties in with our strategic plan of providing, you've heard us talk about it a lot tonight, providing those personal learning opportunities for our students. In terms of the action steps around this, again, engaging students in those personalized learning opportunities. We're really excited that we have a STEAM space this year. Our STEAM had been on a cart before, and if you've ever seen what goes on with STEAM activities, going on a cart in a classroom just doesn't cut it. So now she has this great space, and she's actually working with our technology teachers in there as well, and they're really the enrichment and STEAM technology teacher working hard, collaborating, and doing a lot for grades 4 and 5, with all the grades, but in particular, they're working together with 4 and 5, integrating those technology standards into engineering designs and challenges, and it's been really wonderful. The other activities, again, the professional development, Meg had talked about that, and again, our PLCs working along with kindergarten at Sandown Central, not just with PLCs, but also in terms of professional development for kindergarten and our grade 1 teachers. Our final goal is around social, emotional, and our culture and climate. We do collect Swiss data, that stands for School-Wide Information Systems. It helps us keep track of if we find an area that students universally are having a difficult time with. So maybe it's around transitions, or maybe it's in the cafeteria, we're noticing that there's more office referrals. And it allows us to target that universally or with individual students. Our no bully system, we've been working with our facilitator. We're really excited with the work we're doing with her and how it ties in with the social emotional learning. We continue to offer the parent nights. We also have something called Try It Tuesdays, where every Tuesday we send something out to the staff about another tip around social emotional learning and what teachers can do within their own classrooms. We've really upped our game in terms of our increased social media presence, and I gotta thank Meg for that, because she's just comes naturally to her, and she's been really on that, and parents have really appreciated that piece a lot. We continue with our Monday morning meeting, and again, using our regulation stations, our flexible seating, and different regulation tools and strategies.
And connected to that community theme, as I mentioned earlier, our theme this year for community, we gave every staff member this book, Maybe Something Beautiful. It's based off of a true story out in California where a whole neighborhood came together and they beautified the neighborhood, and it really came together. So we really love the story of that, and it kind of ties in a lot with that theme of being a community and what does that mean to be a member of the community. And the slogan for our school is Follow Your North Star. So one of the things that we wanted to do this year was to get new shirts. Yeah. And so on the front it says Follow Your North Star, and then on the back it says We Are the Village. And we felt that was a really important kind of motto to have, because we're all in it together. The staff, the students, and everyone has one of those shirts, and takes great pride in that. So, we're excited to do more with this community theme. And one of the things that, our teachers are so great at integrating, our big global themes in with our curriculum. And our amazing art teacher did this great project at the beginning of the year where she had every single student in the school create who their hero was. And so you can kind of see here, each one of them, they colored in a picture of who it was, and then they wrote like who it was. So for some of them, it was a personal figure in their life. For others, it might be someone who's famous. But it's really neat, and it lines literally our school hallways. In addition to the student work, it's really nice to be walking down the hall and see that. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, anybody have any questions?
Thank you for letting us share.
Thank you. Gentlemen?
Hello.
Hello.
So good evening, I'm Doug Blay, I'm the principal of Pollard. I'm James Pelletier, assistant principal. James and I are super excited to be here as the new administrative team this year. We really do want to take a second to thank the incredible staff and incredible students we have that have embraced us coming on, who have sort of joined our charge to make some really great changes in the school and to move the school forward. And we couldn't be happier to be here and sort of talk about what we've done and what we're going to do with all of you tonight. So to jump right in, we're going to jump right into last year's action plan goals, go over where we were. So last year we had an action plan goal that by June of 2019, 60% or more of grades 1 to 5 students will have met the student growth percentile expectation of 50% or greater in the area of math as measured by the STAR Math Assessment. When we came to the end of the year, our reality was that 49% of our students made this goal. And And though that 49% of our students made this goal, 69% of our students did achieve, in grades 1 to 5, did achieve the 50th percentile or greater in the area of math as measured by the STAR Math Assessment. So there was a lot of growth in math, but certainly not the expectations that we would have liked to have seen last year. So James and I as a team discussed this, and clearly we've realized there's some more things we need to do at Pollard in the area of math. So we're going to continue to focus our learning and instruction in this area. Last year we did make some really positive instructional shifts in our math instruction. And unfortunately sometimes when you make changes they do, it does cause a little bit of a dip, so we're thinking that that's what may have happened perhaps. So we're going to wrap around those instructional shifts and sort of tighten those up and move forward. And we have brought in some tools for improvement. We have PLC data cycles. Our teachers are really talking about math, diving into math. Again, Megan talked earlier about OGAP, really looking at formative assessments, really looking at specifically what our kids need to work on, breaking our students into groups and really sort of diving into really specifics of math, no longer looking at when our kids struggle, it's not, we don't want to say anymore multiplication is the problem. Well, what specifically in multiplication? Decimals are the problem. What specifically? So we're really trying to pinpoint those areas that we need to work on. We're also bringing math into all areas of instruction, especially in STEAM, so really having more opportunities for math instruction. Our guided math, really having our teachers, going into an elementary classroom and having the teachers teach to a large group isn't really an effective way to teach. So we're breaking into guided math and really, again, focusing on what our kids need to learn. Our second goal from last year was during the 2018-19 school year, all elementary schools will focus on cultivating positive learning environments. And this was part of the Tripart Student Perception Survey. At Pollard School, looking at the overall tripod score in the 7 C's in care, convert, captivate, clarify, consolidate, challenge, and classroom management. In our grades K to 2, our overall score in all 7 areas was a 320, which puts us in the above average range. So in our overall tripod score, we were in the above average range. And in grades 3 to 5, with 245 of our students participating, our score was a 290. So that was well within the average range. The average range runs from 280 to 320. Pollard did focus, the C that they focused on last year was challenge. And so when we look at the challenge score, in our K to 2, our students in 2018 were 308. 2019 was a 300, so a bit of a dip, but if we look at that, 300 is the midpoint or average. In our upper level elementary school, grades 3 to 5, in 2018 we were at a 286 and we went to 296. So we did have a substantial increase in that. We did really want to take a look at data analysis or item analysis when we were looking at challenge. Because we found that 98% of our students said that my teacher makes sure I do my best. So we looked at other questions, really kind of looked at other questions and really are trying to think about how to, really what that question means and how to address that in our school. So that would be, yeah. You're going to see this guy a lot throughout this, and a lot of penguins this year. We've been the Pollard Penguins for a while, but this year we've really embraced being penguins, and our whole community is penguin crazy this year, I guess. And we'll talk a lot about that as we move forward, because the next part of this presentation is James and I, as new administrators, bringing to you really what our vision moving forward, what Pollard School is. So we did come up with a math goal, because certainly we do need to continue to focus in that area. And so by June of 2020, 75% or more of all grades 1 to 5 students at Pollard School will have met the expectation of the 50th percentile or greater in the area of math. I can tell you at this point, when we did our original benchmark testing this fall, we have 62% of our students have met that goal. So it's a pretty lofty goal. With benchmarking, with progress monitoring, and James and I were both at one time enrichment math teachers in this district. So with our passion for math and honestly the passion for teaching that our staff has, I think that we can move this forward and we can really make gains. I think we're on the right track. We've really looked at data points, looked at our instruction. We've had deep conversations from day one. So though this is a bit of a lofty goal, I have no hesitation that we will make it, to be honest.
And so, as Doug alluded to, that is a very lofty goal. So our ways of trying to attain that, first is through our PLC data cycles, focusing on math progress. So our teachers come together once a week, and we're able to look at the formative assessment that we've been working with and see what gaps students have that we need to stop and go back and fill, and see what other students are ready to go on and do more challenging things. And OGAP is going to be a big part of that. A lot of the programs that you use have a scope and sequence that you follow, but it doesn't necessarily tell you what to do when your students are struggling or they don't meet a certain benchmark that you're hoping for. The training that our teachers have begun doing through OGAP is going to play a big part in helping to go back and help fill those gaps so students can make greater progress moving forward. We have continued professional development on guided math instruction, as Doug mentioned before, which allows teachers to break students into smaller groups and help personalize for those students and reach them at their level and helps really engage students better in that small group setting. And additionally to this, we also have a math personalization block each day for each of our students, so that way they can work on what they need specifically, and they're not, sitting in a whole group lesson where there might be things going on that they've already learned.
We have sort of a two-part social emotional community and climate and culture goal. This is our first part of our goal for the year, and it really just focuses around the importance of educating students holistically, socially, emotionally, and academically. Our saying is students will learn what they can, and our first job is to make sure they can. And so that's really our mission as administrators at Pollard, is that all 485 of our kids can. And our staff is fully behind that. And it's a powerful message to send to kids, and it's a powerful message to send to everyone. So that's really, the crux of this goal is we just want our kids to be ready to learn, and we're really focusing on helping them to be able to. This year, we've changed our social emotion. We've developed a social emotional vision statement where Pollard Penguins can swim. The SWIM stands for stay safe, work it out, independent learners, and make good choices. Our kids have definitely kind of embraced that. We do swim tickets. We read a few a day as we do the morning announcements and the pledge. It's nothing more sort of sweet than a second grader come up and was like, "I was crying today, Mr. Blade." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, why are you crying?" "Because you read my swim ticket." So it's powerful stuff, I think, that we're doing at Pollard School. And I get emotional, sorry. So the second part of that goal is to look at the tripod data. And this, we're moving away from challenge. We're moving toward classroom management. We're really looking at classroom management as building a community. We're not really looking at it as behavioral or the kind of old-fashioned classroom management. We're really making sure that all of our classrooms and all of our specialist classrooms and all of our spaces are communities. We're really looking at universal classroom management strategies. Our teachers are modeling behavior. Our students are helping establish guidelines within our school of what positive behavior is. We're avoiding punishing our entire classes for the wrongdoings of a few. We're giving specific praise. We're using nonverbal cues. We're you know, having a lot of positive communication and approaching things in a positive manner. I proudly say that I think we've made a difference. Our school has such a positive feel, and we continue to build on that.
And so in our focus toward this goal, I just want to say I think that the change that's happened at our school this year has been absolutely significant. Mr. Blake came in with a certain idea for us as far as what we were going to do for our students socially and emotionally, and it's been pretty amazing to see the shift in our teachers' thinking as far as that movement away from students will if they want to, as he said, will if they can. And we've done a lot of work with the book, A Teacher's Guide to Trauma. And so through that, we've looked deep into brain science in students and seeing that students who've had trauma, the way that they've developed in their brain has significantly affected their ability to follow a traditional discipline plan. And so through that, we've been adapting for all of our students, and there's a much more happy, positive feel within our school as students, I think, really feel like there's empathy for all of them. And as Mr. Blay said, you know, students are recognizing each other through those swim tickets, and that's been pretty cool to see kids able to recognize in one another traits that maybe they're struggling with, but that they kind of have people that they can look up to within their own grades. And then, of course, we're continuing to research and practice restorative discipline practices. So we're helping students to learn, you know, how they can improve their behaviors rather than punish them ways that may seem arbitrary to them.
Our last goal for this action plan is looking at Pollard School and the production of writing. This is a goal that we talked a lot about because we feel like this is a jumping off point, because we do know that we really need to do some substantial work in writing at our school, but we feel like our first step is to really make sure that our kids are writing on daily, that we really have teachers that are engaging students in writing, and then our hope is to look at this writing and move away from production of writing to more specific goal that, you know, looks at maybe writing routines, writing process, types of writing, conventions, or crafts. So this is really the start. This, we're hoping, is a really start of a sort of a long-term goal. But I think if we work on the production, it's the first step, because as students are writing, it'll give us more of an opportunity to dive into really what they're doing as writers. So that's the start of, you know, things to come, I hope.
And so that writing instruction will emphasize more of the foundational skills, like the development of fluent handwriting, technology, spelling, vocabulary, and language skills. And we want to make sure we include sufficient time for both those foundational skills and then higher level composing skills in writing, like coming up with a central idea and supporting it with relevant details, creating plot structure that includes conflict, building toward tension, and we want to make sure that we give students daily opportunities to write.
So I sort of in summary, we really hope that this math goal, I mean, these were all very well thought out, you know, sort of to see how we could move Pollard forward. I think the math goal, our two social emotional goals, and looking at our writing goal will really help shift the school forward. It'll really really expand our culture, our climate, our math instruction, our writing instruction, and I think ultimately it will help make sure that our kids can. So thank you. Yes.
Thanks, guys. I had a couple of questions. I wanted to have you talk a little bit more about the Teacher's Guide to Trauma. So I'm assuming all your staff has a copy of that book?
Yeah, the way we did Teachers, it's by Melissa Sedin. The way we did the book is it's a very easy read. We gave the book to all of our professional staff, and then in January we're going to take the book back and use it with all of our paraprofessional staff.
Excellent.
Just because of cost, to be honest. But so it's a very quick book. The chapters are read in a minute or two.
Right.
It's really sort of quick, brain-based like brain-based information followed by real-world application.
Right. I won't say I've read every single word in the book, but I'm familiar with the book and think it's a great tool for teachers and paras, and staff in general, including nurses and other people that deal with children. And the other thing I wanted to speak about, if I could, Mr. Chairman, is I'm also a big fan of restorative discipline techniques and a more global look at kids and their getting to what it is that makes them, I hate to say the word tick, but I'm very, very in favor of that, so I'm glad you're using some of that kind of language, and I wish you two a lot of luck down there, and anything that the plaster reps can do to help you.
Yep.
We're with you, so thank you very much. Nice presentation.
Thank you.
Very exciting.
Anything else?
Thank you all. We appreciate your time.
I'll go in and reverse alphabetical order is what they must have decided to do.
One of these is for you. See, nice.
Huh?
Okay. So far from me.
Good evening, everyone. Brian Shawley, interim principal of Danville, and this is Megan Corcoran, my assistant, our assistant principal at Danville. I just want to publicly say how thankful I am to be back at Danville and all the support and help that I've had from Megan. It's been great. I appreciate everything.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Hit me.
Sorry, I didn't mean that. So when I got back to Danville, I wanted to know, why was there an E in the word hawk? Because we're the Danville Hawks, but it has an E. So I wanted to know, do you know why there's an E at the end of it?
Because it's named after hawk.
It's a
With
person.
an E, it's a person.
Correct.
The town of Hawk, yes. I do
So-
know the history of Danville, thank you.
And his name was, he was a Royal Navy officer, and the town was named Hawk for a short period. So that's our school mascot, it's Danville Hawk, in honor of Admiral Sir Edward Hawke. I just wanted to throw a little tidbit out there.
There you go.
Because when I came there, I wanted to know, why? Why does this have an E?
In case any of us are ever on Jeopardy at some point.
Exactly. At Danville, we have 3 core values: respect, responsibility, and pride. We also have a phrase that we use with our students to promote positive behavior. Here at Danville, we take pride in being kind. So that is a part of our no bully. We've been working with our new bully reps, and this is our slogan to promote positive behavior. So these are our 2018-2019 goal reviews. So student achievement goals in math and literacy are measured by using the STAR Student Growth Percentile, SGP. Also, in 2017-18, Danville SGP target was 40. This was increased to 50 last year, the 2018-2019 school year, to align with higher expectations and accountability. Danville has reflected on their data with teachers and have plans for how they will continue to address achievement areas through this school year.
So I'll apologize to you now. You have seen this goal 3 times, but I'll read it anyway. By June of 2019, 60% or more of students in grades 2 through 5 will have met the student growth percentile expectation of 50 or greater in the area of math as measured by the STAR math assessment. So the goal of 60%, we were close, we were at 45%. But if looking at a different measure, still from the STAR assessment, 72% of our students in grades 1 through 5 in Danville scored in the 50th percentile or higher, as measured against the percentage of other students nationally
who obtained scores equal to or lower than the score of a particular student. So although we did not reach our goal for SGP, 72% of our students were over that 50th percentile rank.
Last year, Danville worked on one of the 7 C's tripod, which was captivating. So the goal was, during the 2018-19 school year, all elementary schools will focus on cultivating positive learning environments within each school community as measured by the Tripod Student Perception Survey and the completion of several events and activities throughout the school year. Danville had some great activities throughout the school year. They had their academic red carpet event evening. We had an academic fair evening at the school, which students had the chance to show off their Tape People Expo, the recorder concert at the school. We also have been working with a variety of different presentations. I'll show you a few pictures. We had the No Bully BMX riders, wildlife encounters, and we had visits from Martha and George Washington, helping to captivate learning at Danville School. Students really enjoyed all those. They loved seeing the animals. I want to thanks to Cindy Wood and Beth Kissel for coming and walking around for Constitution Day and every year. It's a great time, them going into the classrooms. So we're going to jump into our 2019-2020 school year. Like I said, I am very excited. This was the first day of school. Megan and I were ecstatic to get back into the swing of things. Teachers are energized, excited to be back in. The smiles on everybody's face walking into the school, it's great. There's a great energy with everybody. So I just wanted to share how much excitement is really going on down in Danville.
You can jump.
I got some major hops there.
All right, so moving into this year, our first goal is, again, around math. And this year, our goal is, by June of 2020, 75% or more of all grades 1 through 5 students at Danville Elementary will have met the expectation of 50th percentile or greater in the area of math as measured by the STAR math assessment. So some of the ways in which we are going to do that, we are going to continue with the guided math practices and math talks that we started a lot last year. All of our staff attended the guided math training last school year, and that's something we're continuing with this year during our personalization block. We have a UA teacher that is in every single classroom during their math personalization block as another teacher and another adult who can kind of help run some of those small group practice skills. That way we can have more groups happening at once for kids. At Danville, we actually had 7 teachers attend the OGAP training over the summer. So a lot of them attended the additive version, which focused a lot on the use of concrete materials to kind of promote that number sense and that understanding. So we're already seeing a big difference with that in classrooms. Teachers are able to kind of rely on some of that training to help support kind of the work that they're doing with their kiddos. We do have we purchased Tangy Tuesdays, which is, it's another resource, but it helps kids to apply kind of the math skills that they're learning kind of in a more upped level. So they're able to apply them in a different way. And we continue kind of to talk about math during PLCs at least once a month. That is our cycle, is around math.
Yep. So we are taking the tripod survey, and we worked with our leadership team to come up with our new tripod. So we're working, last year we worked on captivating. This year we're working on consolidating. So in 2019-2020 school year, Danville Elementary will focus on effective teaching and learning practices as measured by the Tripod Student Perception Survey and the completion of action steps determined by each school community. So what is consolidating? Megan and I and the leadership team feel that it's important for our teachers to consolidate their lessons on a daily basis for our students to be successful, to consolidate it so they can have transfer and make their learning memorable, so they can transfer that. So we want the teachers to summarize and make connections.
And our final goal for the year is that in the 2019-2020 school year, Danville School will focus on developing positive learning environments and student social emotional skills as measured by various data collection tools, including Tripod Student Perception Survey, behavior tracking data, and the completion of our action steps. So our SEAL team, which is our social, emotional, and academic learning team, continues to meet monthly. They have a different monthly skill that they focus on for SEL. They're working closely with our student council as well, and we call them our empathy ambassadors. So they are kind of working on building empathy in the classrooms, out on the playground, in the cafeteria. Oh, and doing different rollouts. Yep, we purchased Mind Yeti this year for all of our classrooms. And this is a way to promote mindfulness in the classroom. So our teachers are using them throughout the day to kind of pause with the kids and kind of promote that mindfulness idea. We have morning announcements this year, and they are led by students. So the students do the announcements every morning. It's another opportunity for them to be leaders in our school. Power Play is a program that our school counselor and our PE teacher run together. And they identify groups of kids who they'll throw them into a situation and kind of work on those leadership skills to kind of promote those positive interactions and leadership opportunities.
So I brought this little slogan over from Pollard School. Remember what you do today makes a difference tomorrow. This has been a positive message for our students. They go home, tell their parents. The parents they know what the message is. It's an easy little motto for our students. The Colby Library librarians were at the school the other day, and they love the message. They asked if they could put it on their board outside. They think it's great. We use it during the pledge every morning, and the students get to say this. So it's a big part of the school day, and it really makes a difference. So, but I did borrow that from Mr. Blaise.
Can I ask one question?
Thanks.
Could you let me know what math program are we currently using in the elementary school now? How long has it been in place, and what was the previous math program?
I can speak to that. We are following the district curriculum, and they follow the curriculum and supplement by using Math and Vision program. The math program before that was Everyday Math, and we used that for probably 7 to 8 years. And Envision's been in place probably 4 years. 5? Fifth? Okay, yeah.
So we've had a program in place for 5 years at the elementary school, and it appears, and correct me if I'm wrong, all these principals here, that our students are, not even all of our students are hitting the 50th percentile. We're looking at trying to get 60 to 75% of those students hitting the 50th percentile. Is that correct?
It's going to even expand upon.
No, that was the SGP.
The growth.
The growth.
But the growth, so where do we stand? What percent of students, say in the 5th grade, are at or above
Well, we have
grade level?
We have 72% of our students
are at grade level.
above 50th percentile.
So you have about 30% of the
So we have
students are
SG
not at.
We have SGP, and then we have percentile.
So I guess
Talk to me in percentile. If there are 100 kids and if there are 100 kids in 5th grade and they graduate, how many of them are doing math at grade level?
At a fifth grade level, that's your
Yes,
fifth
they're
grade?
graduating from 5th grade. How many are at grade level when they
I
graduate?
don't have that data right in front of me.
I know
So-
with all the schools,
We're at
percentile
76%, yeah.
So 76% of 5th
But that wasn't
graders-
just for 5th grade.
That was
That was the
We'd
whole
have
school.
to disaggregate the,
So 76% of students coming out of a grade level on average, which is a bad thing to use, but why are we not seeking more math intervention and adding math specialists at the elementary level? Why haven't we not been asking for those? Have we?
Math specialist?
At the elementary
Well,
levels?
we did before.
What?
About maybe 10 years ago, we had math
coaches,
specialists. It was Sharon Joyce and Kathy Fowler. After that, they were math
coaches.
coaches. They would go into the classrooms and work with the teachers.
Do we have those now?
I have to say, ours was 84%. You haven't heard me yet.
No, but I looked at your numbers, they're good. I know.
Wow,
We haven't had
way to
our
throw somebody under the bus, huh?
Why aren't we asking for more math interventionalists, coaches, whatever they are, at the elementary? Why aren't you asking for them? Are you asking for them? No, not me.
Oh.
Why are you not asking at whoever the next level up is for these math interventionalists?
Oh, here comes Cindy.
We're struggling in math.
Well,
So some of our intervention comes out of Title I funding. So we have Title I tutors. We have the luxury, the way Title I works, we have certain rankings in terms of the schools, the funding that we're able to provide. Because our Title I funds have been declining pretty significantly over the past several years through federal grants, we no longer have the funding for the math Title I tutors, with the exception of the Pollard School is able to have a tutor to work on math. That being said, you'll see there's a staffing summary in your packet. So at a fairly recent board meeting, we had a TTA speak to some of these needs. So since then, Dr. Metzler met with the building principals at their monthly principals meeting and said, look, if you have needs, you need to advocate for those. So you'll notice in the staffing summary that you'll see we have repurposed a couple positions, and those are now interventionists in schools that are not receiving Title I funding. So we actually are trying to provide increased interventionists to support the issues that you're noticing. So we don't have enough right now positions to be able to do that in every building, to have it be dedicated to math. But that's what we're working on right now.
Are we asking for those in the proposed budget?
Not currently, we're not.
Why,
no.
why are we not?
Well, at the time when we were budgeting, I think we hadn't yet started having these conversations, but we're certainly tracking it. It's something we can go back and revisit. Yeah.
I'd appreciate it if we could have another summary as to what we have, what you think we need, and why we don't have it in the budget if we're not asking for it.
Okay.
It's critical. Math and science skills in this day and age are critical.
Yep, absolutely.
We need to put reresources there.
Especially the foundation. I mean, when you get to the high school.
I have a question. I know you haven't gotten up there yet, Kathy, but I do have a question. No, not for you. No. I guess what my question is this is, every single one I've seen, other than Atkinson, has been focused on math. Do we not have a reading star reports? Do we not, is that been the directive?
No.
Coming down?
No.
Or because I saw writing from Pollard?
Yep.
But what about reading? Because if you can't read, we can't do anything, really.
So I mean, I don't want to speak for you, but I'm happy to.
I don't want to speak for everybody either. I think for each, just because it's not laid out as one of our 3 goals, it doesn't mean we're not focused on it. you know, we pick 3 that we really center on, that we share out with you and come up with action steps. We still have action steps around reading. Our teachers are constantly doing all sorts of assessments. We have Heggerty, we have reading records that are occurring, that are happening all of the time that we talk about in PLC. So I don't want you to think that we're not, reading is essential.
what I'm
As a
saying,
former English teacher,
It's a common theme right now that math has been highlighted, and
Right.
that's why I'm asking.
Could I explain? So part of that is that the principals last year prepared their action plan and their action goals together, collaboratively. So each building adopted essentially the same goal, and then they had different variables. So it might have been, I think, Atkinson, based on their benchmark data, their goal for math might have been slightly higher, but it was essentially the same goal. So that's why you're seeing math for every school from last year. This year, they decided to really hone in on each individual building and personalize a little bit more based on the building's needs and what direction they felt they needed to go in. So that's why you're seeing that discrepancy between last year's reflections. They all look the same because they are. They're the same goals from last year for all elementary schools.
And I would like to compare, you know, the math goal was there before I got there. I would like to work on it for another year so I could see it
Well,
for
I
several
understand,
years. you know.
I understand
Yeah.
that we want to keep
Yeah.
tracking these things, but that is also why I asked for the reading for STAR also.
Sure, yep, and we can
Because
provide
we
that.
don't have really a grasp on that.
Yep, we can provide that, absolutely. Sure.
The other thing that I'm starting to see is just, because I've already looked at the Atkinson one, so I already know your numbers are already before you present them. The thing that I'm seeing is that we have a big variability between buildings, and that's sort of a concern, because now it's not just what we have here, it's the variability that we have in the district, and that's something that's got me concerned. So that's something that I think would need to be addressed is
Yep.
maybe the schools that are on the lower side of the numbers would be looking at what is the schools that have the higher numbers, what are they doing? And what can we grab from them and bring into our, organization?
Yep. Yeah, and we do a lot of collaborative planning. So our assistant principals are our curriculum coordinators at the elementary level. They meet regularly to plan, work with teachers. A lot of that work you're hearing about in professional learning communities. That's ongoing in all buildings across the district, in all towns, if you will. However, again, they're targeting each individual building's needs. But a lot of the action plans, so you've heard about the OGAP math training, that ongoing assessment project that our teachers have been working on. We're bringing that back this summer and expanding that across the district. So, there's collaborative work going on, and that's when they can really share with one another. We're also, in October, for example, October 1st, on one of our professional development days, we have started to provide more time on those days for teachers to meet as a grade level across the district. So all of our grade level teachers, K2, that group, all across the district were able to meet together and compare what they're doing on each grade level. And also 3-5. We had a session for that as well. So that's an opportunity for teachers to be sharing what's going on in their classrooms. And we had some collaborative planning days around math last year, around curriculum and lesson planning across districts, across the district and towns working together, our teachers. So it's in the works. Professional development days are few and far between, and so those opportunities to have those cross-town conversations, we take advantage of them when we can, but we don't have many times to do that. So,
And to expand upon a comment that Dr. Farah made, is that, we cannot, as a board, know what you guys need and to support it unless you guys ask for it. Some of us are educators that have had careers in it. There's a lot of diverse, opinions and skill set on this board, but we can't support something that it's not asked for.
Right, but I think we want to be mindful ourselves about if we are asking for additional staff, there needs to really be a significant need that can't be addressed through ongoing training of our current staff. We need to support our educators in what they're currently doing. And if they're telling us we need additional professional development on how to provide differentiated interventions for our students at all levels in the classroom, by personalizing instruction, that's what we put our area of focus in. So we may need increased professional development funding, which you haven't seen my budget yet, but when you do, you'll see that I've upped those lines because that's what I'm trying to address. So we're trying to provide that support through a variety of ways. And it may be additional staff, but it may not be. That may not be the magic bullet. It might be, a variety of things all working together. So we are looking at that. And we will certainly ask. I certainly appreciate you saying, tell us what you need and we want to support you. Absolutely. So we will go back and revisit. If it is staffing, we'll come back and we will ask. But right now, we're looking at it through all of these different avenues. And those include professional development, time to collaborate, and talking to teachers in terms of where they're at and what our students need. So,
Okay.
Yep.
Right, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
I can sit down because it's standing.
And last but not least,
Exactly. Okay. Well, I did ask for an interventionist. I asked for 3 solid years for an interventionist, and I did get it this year, so I'm very happy. I'd like to introduce myself, Kathy Deotis. Everybody knows me. I've been around for a long time. And
So have I.
Patrice has been around. This is Patrice Lift. She is not only my assistant principal, but the curriculum coordinator for my building also. So I know some of the goals will be repetitive, so bear with us. I will go quickly. I know you've been listening to everybody for a long time. So this is kind of a goals review for Atkinson Academy. Student achievement goals in math and literacy were measured by using STAR. In 2018, 2019, we used the student growth percentile to measure it. In 2017, 2018, Timberlane's SGP target increased from 40 to 50 to align with the higher expectations and accountability. Atkinson Academy set their goal at 60% of the students to reach the target of 50 based on their review of our review of specific school data. All students are included in this measure. This allows us to monitor the growth of students and compare growth against like peers nationally. And Atkinson Academy has reflected on their data with teachers and have plans on how they will continue to address achievement areas on the 1920 school year.
I got it.
You got it? Oh,
Yeah.
You're pressing here and I'm pressing there. So our first goal by June of 2019, 60% or more of our students in grade 1 to 5 would have met 50% or greater. We came up with 66% with the SGP. Actually, it was 84% of our students in grades 1 to 5 at Atkinson were at or above target on STAR at the end of the year in math. Goal 2 was our tripod goal of challenge. I gotta put my glasses on and stuff here. And during the year 18-19 school year, Atkinson Academy would focus on cultivating positive learning environments within each school. Community, as measured by the tripod student perception survey and the completion of several events and activities throughout the school year. Challenge is what we chose. Challenge is something needing great mental or physical effort in order to be done successfully.
Is there another picture that goes with it?
Sometimes our students find themselves in situations that we recognize as challenges. Sometimes we ask for challenges, we seek them out, and we look for them. Here are 2 quotes that show the importance of challenges that we try to instill in our students. Don't limit your challenges, challenge your limits. Each day we must strive for constant and never-ending improvement. We don't grow when things are easy. We grow when we face challenges. School, Atkinson Academy, is about improving and growing, and challenges will help us do that. So on our tripod survey, you can see that we were right at the midpoint or a little bit above in each one of the areas with either early or the upper. So, we'll go right into the goals for 1920, our action goals. By June of 2020, 80% or more of our kindergarten through grade 1 students at Atkinson Academy will have met the benchmark expectation of 50% or greater in the area of early literacy as measured by the STAR Early Literacy Assessment and the Heggerty Screener. I feel that we did extremely well last year. There were only, I think, 4 children that did not make the benchmark that we had done, but who knows what this year will bring. So I did 80% rather than, I'd rather work on that. So Patrice will talk a little bit about.
So, the way that Atkinson Academy, is there another slide? No, it's this one. The way that we've structured our schedule across the elementary schools this year has been with very large blocks for literacy, which includes reading and writing. In addition to that, we have a block of personalization time in both the areas of mathematics and literacy and reading, where students receive personalized instruction. That's not only the students who need intervention in terms of they're lagging in their skills. This is also for students who need to be enriched, because within every grade level we know there's a bell curve of students. So how are we meeting each individual student's needs? And I'll talk about this a little bit when we talk about math, but one of the practices that we have at the Academy is we spend an extended amount of time 3 times a year unpacking our data. And we look at various sources of data. STAR is a screener. It's sort of like, heads up, here you go. We need to dig deeper into what's going on with the learning of this student. So that's where the Heggerty screener comes in. That's where you've heard other people talk about the Fountas-Pinnell benchmarking assessments. So we take a look at all of those pieces and we talk about each individual child and what they need, and then we build our systems. And within the PLC model, just as Megan mentioned that every month they're talking about math, they're sorting intervention groups, we're all doing that as well in literacy. All of our schools are doing that. So I think it's become part of our culture. Teachers come now, I think we're going to sort something that they gave in math, and they're like, oh yeah, let us show you. We already did that. What do you think? It's like they are just automatically doing this work at their common planning times, and also in a more formalized way at PLCs.
So our math goal, by June of 2020, 85% or more of our students in grades 1 to 5 will have met the expectation of 50% or greater in the area of math as measured by STAR. This is how we'll do it. All students will receive quality research-based instruction differentiated to meet their needs. Staff will sort multiple forms of data that will determine personalized learning goals and intervention groups, much like Patrice just talked about. An intervention cycle will be developed establishing a time frame for accomplishing personalized learning goals, and progress towards these learning goals will be monitored to measure the effectiveness of targeted interventions. And
in addition, our staff has been exposed to OGAP. We only had 1 teacher able to attend this summer, but they're excited to attend next year when it is offered again. It is powerful learning. We're always looking for ways to improve instruction in classrooms. And some other of my colleagues have done a great job of already mentioning certain programs that we use district-wide, like Tangy Math and the like. This is also being used at Atkinson.
we also have a social emotional goal, which was goal 3. And much like everyone else talked about, we are going to, we chose consolidate and consolidate. Teachers who consolidate help students to integrate and synthesize key ideas. They summarize and make connections in ways that help students see relationships within and across lessons, remember ideas, and build understanding over time. some of the questions that our teachers came up with that they're going to kind of focus on would be, do you summarize big ideas at the end of a lesson and review them periodically? Do you ask students to summarize and synthesize what they're learning? Do you make explicit connection between lessons? Do you help students make connections within and across the curriculum? Do you refer to relevant current events or other meaningful applications of what students are learning to facilitate transfer of knowledge and skills? Do your assignments require students to build on prior learning? And do your assessments incorporate topics and skills from earlier lessons? And the message that we are trying to give to the students is you need to review and summarize your lessons to help make learning coherent and memorable. So, we also continue to work on our school-wide CARES: challenge, acceptance, responsibility, empathy, and self-control. We say, after our Pledge of Allegiance every day, we say the Pledge of Kindness, which is up there. That is something that reminds the children every day that they need to be kind to each other and to really kind of start to think about what they need themselves to be in a good place every day to learn. We also had...
A couple of years ago, we were able to bring a wonderful author. He's an international speaker. His name is Dr. Thomas Herr. To this district. He spent a day with every school working on a book that he wrote called The Formative Five. It really is a really nice book that focuses on, teaching grit, teaching self-awareness, teaching empathy to students. And his book really spoke to the Atkinson staff. Each member of the district received a book. And this staff, we have a team, it's our universal team, we call it the ABC team. And they work very closely to bring, what Kathy was just discussing to the school. They plan our rollouts. They really are the force behind the work in social and emotional learning at Atkinson Academy. And last year, he called me up and he asked if he could come spend 2 days in our district. He visited several of the schools, and he spent a day at Atkinson helping us work on the CARES. And he's written a new book that's published next month, and several of our schools work. Sandown North, Danville, Timberlane Regional Middle School, and Atkinson Academy are mentioned in the book. That he was a wonderful person to learn from. And I think we're just really thrilled with the guidance that he gave us, and he still keeps in touch with the teachers in our district to say, how's your work going? How's that social and emotional learning going for you guys? So it's so nice to have somebody to learn from and somebody that just keeps an interest. Next.
Yeah. So at our first Monday morning meeting, we read Journey by Aaron Becker, and reminded students that life is a journey. You can see up there, life is a journey, make my own stories, and learn something new each day. We asked all our Bear community members to join us in this journey this year. And I'll leave you with this quote: your journey is not the same as mine, and my journey is not yours. But if you meet me on a certain path, maybe we can encourage each other. Okay. That's it. Any questions? Seeing you've heard the same spiel for the last
What was the name of the
hour.
book again? The Formative Five.
I have a copy if you want it. Any questions?
No,
Great.
thank you.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Drive safely.
What we'll do is we'll move on
Windy,
to
and it might be
Mr. Duffy
snowing.
with his student representative report.
All right,
Kyle.
awesome. Good evening, everyone. Apologies for my late arrival. I had my final cross-country banquet this evening. Very sad times. Moving on to the next season just as quick, though, so that's good. So I'm going to start off with Atkinson Academy tonight. On the 30th, they had a spooktacular magic laser show presented by an organization. Students enjoyed that a lot, and that coincided with their Halloween parties and the costume march and such. At Danville Elementary, we had the UNH ambassadors, engineering students that came down from UNH to work with the 4th and 5th graders on multiple different projects. The 4th graders, each of the students spent about an hour in each classroom, and they designed a theme park ride using the STEM background that these UNH ambassadors had. That was an awesome activity for them to participate in. Over at Pollard School, I had talked about a few weeks ago the New Hampshire's Kid Governor program. So the Pollard School Elementary, they elected their 5th grade class, Casey Fitzgerald, as the representative for New Hampshire Student Governor. So congratulations to her, and I hope she moves on and does well in the further elections. Going on to Sandown North, they also had the UNH ambassadors visit. They did similar activities, and they also worked with iPhones, and they talked about budgeting for different materials when doing science experiments. So that kind of brings that practicality that we talked about earlier this evening into their learning. Going on to Sandown Central, students are learning about the national anthem and what it means to be a veteran in the branches of the military in honor of Veterans Day this Monday, so that's always a good thing to reflect on your community and your civic involvement and such. At the middle school, the students worked on the theme of gratitude and advisory for the month of November. They worked on an Amazing Me activity, which helps students recognize the qualities about themselves that they liked and other positive things about their classmates, so that kind of builds that good school culture, and I think the students enjoyed participating in that. Moving on to the high school, I have a lot of dates once again, as I usually do. On November 13th, we have our RoCap of Veterans Day brunch at 11 a.m. in the library. At 11:15, we're having a ceremony to add Lieutenant Mark R. Caldwell from the class of 77 to the Heroes Wall. He wasn't added last year, so we're doing a separate ceremony to engrave his name onto that wall. The Veterans Day brunch is always a great success. Veterans share their stories with students, and we have a conversation for about an hour or so over coffee, and it's a really interesting experience. I participated last year, and I'm doing it again this year, and it's really awesome to just talk with them. On November 17th, we have the NEASC presentations from 12 to 4 p.m. At the PAC, we have all the tables from our clubs and our different activities and sports participating, kind of showcasing our school. I know some of you will be attending to do the board participation, and I think that's going to be a great way to show off our school culture and kind of come together and see what we really are as a school at the high school. And on November 22nd, we have the Best Buddies Pizza and Karaoke Night at 5 p.m. in the CAF. And for performing arts, in October we had the Jazz All-State auditions at Souhegan High School, and they were auditioning for the 2020 New Hampshire Music Educators Jazz All-State Festival. We usually have a lot of Timberland students go to these festivals, as our music program is very strong. The 3-day festival happens in February, and we'd like to congratulate Elizabeth Amarelli, Taylor April, Catherine Burke, Evan Casey, Jason Casey, Laura Hills, Jenna Horn, Justin Livingston, Caitlin Mazer, Max Oreo, Nora Theberge, and Catherine Troy for all making that festival, and they'll be going up there in February to showcase their skills along with students from across the state who auditioned well and demonstrated that. That's all I have for tonight, and thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. All right, we'll move on to our next one is the Advanced Placement Dual Enrollment.
Hello again. So I'm here with Mark Pedersen, who is our Director of Secondary Curriculum. And our presentation tonight was designed to provide you information relative to School Board Goals 2 and 3. And I know you're very familiar with those, but if you don't have them in front of you, specifically those requests were to review AP and dual enrollment offerings, along with any trends in both enrollment and scores. And then the third goal was to obtain information related to declining participation in the AP classes and look at how to expand enrollment. So this presentation really is trying to look at this comprehensively to address all of those different items that are embedded in those 2 goals. So to begin with, thank you. Advanced placement and dual or concurrent enrollment are really the two pathways that are available to our high school students to obtain early college credit. So they are options. It's not kind of an automatic path, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like for both of those. So to begin with, advanced placement, or sometimes we just shorten it to be AP. Enrollment, we have a variety of classes. We're going to list those out for you later in the presentation. But that program leads to credit in the following way. So if a student is enrolled in an AP course here at the Timberlane District, those students are required per district policy, that's policy IHCD, to take the exam at the conclusion of the course. It's in May. All AP exams are in May. Not all schools require that. So when we are looking at our scores in a little bit, it's important to be aware that we are comparing all of our students enrolled in AP courses up against other area schools, regionally, globally, where students self-select if at the end of the course they will decide to take the exam or not, depending on their performance in the class. So that's just important information. Once the student takes an exam, those are scored on a scale of 1 to 5. Students strive to receive what we refer to as a qualifying score. That would be a score of 3 or above. And then if they do receive a qualifying score, credit is dependent upon the AP policies of the college or university that they choose to attend. So that is really, some schools accept scores of 3, some 4, some 5. Some may not even accept 5 because they don't accept AP credit. So it's kind of the way that works for the advanced placement program.
Sort of the other half of that is the dual or concurrent enrollment with area colleges. So in this scenario, students actually have to opt into that college credit if it's a course that they're currently taking at Timberlane that coincides with that option. So students, it's up to students to opt in. So students and their families, they can complete external application and submit fees to the college or university directly. So they sort of work with the college or university directly, and it's not really through Timberlane at that point. So the students are completing all the grade and course requirements set forth by the partner college or university. At the end of the year, they're getting a grade at Timberlane, and that grade goes to the college or university, it gets submitted, and then that college credit is awarded on a college transcript. So again, it's sort of up to the families or the student to, over the summer or at any point, ask for that college transcript directly from either SNU or NHTI, or the two that we have a partnership with. I just wanted to add one point there about that fee. There is a opportunity after the course is done for students to apply for the Governor's STEM Scholarship to get that fee reimbursed to them. If it's a STEM course, they're allowed to do 2 a year. They need a C or better. So there's other pieces of it, but there is that possibility of getting that fee reimbursed to them through that Governor's Scholarship. So continuing on, we, with dual and concurrent enrollment, course offerings, and enrollment in those courses, we really have two partnerships in this. We have the Running Start program, which is earning college credit in the high school through the college, the community college system of New Hampshire, and then our other partner school is Southern New Hampshire University, that I'll just refer to as SNU. So we have Project Running Start, like I said, the Community College System of New Hampshire, which is through NHTI, New Hampshire Technical Institute. It's designated Timberlane courses that are aligned to the content, rigor, and learning outcomes of either NHTI or SNU. Timberlane teachers must meet or exceed the hiring qualifications for NHTI or SNU adjunct faculty. So technically they are hired as adjunct faculty with NHTI or SNU. And again, students who are opting into this, they are the ones paying the fee. They meet the requirements. So that high school credit is on the Timberlane transcript, and it's also on a NHTI or SNU transcript that they can take and bring to whatever school that they wind up going to after Timberlane. So we just wanted to highlight the courses that are currently offered as dual or concurrent enrollment. So that left-hand column, as you look at it, those are courses that we have agreements with SNU. And the right-hand column, as you look at it, is the courses that we have agreements with NHTI. So, you know, you look there, SNU, AP Chem, AP Environmental, AP Physics, Discrete Math, Information Tech, Human Relations, College Accounting, and Practicing Teaching. Those are all courses that are getting SNU credit, like I said, and the number of credits right after it is the number of college credits. So they're all equivalent to either half or 1 credit at Timberlane, but those are the number of credits equivalent at either SNU or NHTI. In addition to those courses that we have here at Timberlane, as you may or may not know, Timberlane students can go to career technical education either at Pinkerton or Salem CTE. And both Pinkerton and Salem also have dual enrollment opportunities similar to what we have. And so those are lists of courses at Pinkerton or Salem CTE Center that Timberlane students can have access to. So we felt as though it was important to highlight those facts that those students or Timberlane students also in a way have access to these courses as well. Besides the courses just at Timberlane, they also have access to all of these courses at Pinkerton and Salem. And so what we have here is just the enrollment trends of the Timberlane courses that have this dual enrollment or concurrent enrollment eligibility. So these are just the numbers of Timberlane students who are taking the course. This is not necessarily the number of kids who are enrolled in the dual enrollment aspect of the course. This is just simply the course or the number of students enrolled in that course at Timberlane. So those are the SNU eligible courses. Following slide is the NHTI eligible courses. And I mean, you can kind of see where those courses are going. All right, if we go, this next slide, what we looked at is just, we wanted to see what sort of is other schools are doing and what's available to other students across the state and kind of see where Timberlane falls. So we looked at about 20 schools that we felt had some similarities to Timberlane, whether it was size, whether it was socioeconomic, whether it was geographic region, similar aspects to some sort of similar aspects to Timberlane. So we just have these listed in order of magnitude, I guess, if you will, of the number of offerings. And so there's a number of schools over on that left-hand column that all have CTE centers or career technical education centers on their campus. So, for example, you look at Londonderry, they're offering 33 dual enrollment. Salem has 30 dual enrollment, but 16 of those are directly tied to their CTE. So, if you compare Salem's non-CTE courses, there's really just 14. So Exeter, 27 total, 16 in CTE. So it's not like it's, since Timberlane doesn't have their own CTE center, we wanted to just make people aware that those courses or those schools that are offering more than us have a number of those courses directly in their CTE center. Right. So as we look at next steps with this, we are actually investigating adding additional dual enrollment opportunities through existing courses in English, social studies, and elective credit options. We're not looking to add courses. What we're looking to do is look at our program of studies, talk with SNU, talk with NHTI, talk with possibly other colleges, and look at how can we now take additional Timberlane courses and make them dual enrollment as well. So we've had some meetings with SNU about this, NHTI representatives. We're also looking at maybe some other schools, like I said. We're also setting up some meetings with SNU, NHTI, and our counseling department to further get that interest there. Like I said, communication with other community colleges, and then timely communication from Timberlane to the parents of dual enrollment eligible students. We had done that. We want to maybe get out some more communications, when the kids first sign up, and just try to get more communications out to the parents and the families of those students.
So we wanted to look at dual enrollment as kind of one of those early college credit options. and we're going to transition into advanced placement, or AP. We're going to start by looking at enrollment trends, and then we'll take a look at the scores. So advanced placement courses and exams generally are predictive of college success, high rates of graduation. Once again, scores of 3 or higher on the exam are considered qualifying scores. Here, again, all of our students are required to take the associate exam, and the district pays for those exam fees for all students enrolled in the courses. That is part of the policy. All AP courses every year, and teachers go through a rigorous process. There's an annual course audit that's associated with all AP courses. We're required to attest that we meet certain requirements through the College Board on a yearly basis. Those include our syllabi alignment. So all of the syllabi that are used in our AP courses are approved by the College Board. It's quite an extensive process. There are certain learning objectives for every AP course. The syllabi have to identify every place throughout the course of the year where those learning objectives are addressed. And it's a very formal process that we go through, and regularly the College Board makes changes to their courses. Our teachers work with the deans and with Mr. Pedersen to make sure that we are up to date and all of our courses are meeting those requirements. So we align our learning outcomes. We have a teacher PLC. They meet to talk about instructional practices and methods of assessment, trying to align their methods of assessment in the course throughout the year with the format of the AP exam at the end of the year. It's not necessarily teaching to the test, but we certainly want our students to be prepared for what that exam looks like, make sure that the rigor of the questions that are being asked in class on a regular basis aligns with those exams. We use time testing ratios. So if we know that our students have 55 minutes to write an essay from start to finish, and that includes reading 3 pretty extensive resources that they have to cite as evidence in their essay, we make sure that that's how we model that essay writing assessment in class. And having the block schedule right now, the extended block 90 minutes, allows for that time in many of these classes to accomplish those time ratios without interruption, which is what had happened in the past. Our teachers go through regular training and professional development. Those include summer workshops, week-long summer workshops, often at area universities in Vermont and Maine. We send them out to make sure that they're all up to date and feeling prepared to teach. And we regularly reflect on instructional planning reports every year when we get those scores.
So similar to the dual enrollment, concurrent enrollment, we wanted to just highlight the courses that we are offering. So Timberlane is currently offering 18 AP courses. The left-hand column are those courses sort of in the STEM field, and the right-hand column are those in the humanities. The parentheses after each one of the courses listed is the grades available to students. So biology is open to 11th and 12th graders as listed in our program of studies. So as you continue, the next slide is looking at the enrollment trends over 5 years in the different areas. So, we sort of, like we just did on the last slide, broke it up by STEM and humanities. So this slide is looking at those STEM courses, the 5-year enrollment trend. You can see that, there's fluctuations. And then humanities, the 5-year enrollment trend in those courses. This is looking at that enrollment trend in a little bit more detail, looking at some of the specific numbers here. We consider courses eligible for 10th through 12th graders because there's some APs, mainly
World history.
AP World History,
Computer science.
that's open to sophomores. So those are eligible. There's no AP courses right now eligible for freshmen. So as overall enrollment has declined, the percentage of students enrolled in AP has remained somewhat consistent between 15 and 20%. So if you see back in 2014, the percentage of the eligible school population was at 17%. In 2019, the percentage of eligible school population is still at 17%. So although enrollment in the school has declined and the number of AP students has declined, the actual percentage of the school population who are taking AP is remained relatively steady.
So we are looking at ways to expand, though, AP enrollment, even though it is steady. Would like to look to improve that. So improve communications regarding the promotion of AP courses to eligible students prior to course enrollments. We're looking at a number of different ways to do that, mainly visiting classrooms or advisories this year by the deans, the AP teacher, and or counselors to encourage students to maybe consider an AP course that maybe either they didn't know existed or they didn't think they were eligible for. Just trying to get the word out a little bit better. So there's also some collaborative planning by departments to develop AP pathways. This actually came out directly from our AP teachers, had this suggestion. They, last year and again this year, our AP teachers are involved in an AP professional learning community, and one of the suggestions they had was to develop these AP pathways. And so we listened to them. We thought it was a great idea, and we're working with them to develop those. We're looking at the use of College Board AP potential reports associated with the PSAT results. So we have access to those reports, and we can use those to maybe look at some students who maybe they didn't think that they were AP eligible or had that AP potential, and we can sort of suggest ideas or suggest courses to them. Pre-AP informational meetings by course for interested students. So again, kind of working with students and letting them just be aware of what's happening and their potential to take courses. And then continue those course selection meetings between students and counselors. We've been doing that for years. But just reminding counselors to, just mention AP courses to the kids, and even those kids that maybe didn't think that they were an AP, one of those quote-unquote AP kids, really trying to encourage kids to think about all the different AP courses available to them.
So now we're going to transition to looking at our scores, last year's scores, and a trend over the past 6 years we're looking at. So once again, I know I've said it multiple times, but AP exams are graded on a scale of 1 through 5. This is the College Board's kind of grading scale. So we do refer to the qualifying scores as 3 or above. That is because they refer to a 3 as qualified, a 4 is very well, and a 5 is extremely well qualified. And just as a reminder, schools have their own policies, universities and colleges. They may accept scores of 3, 4, 5. They might accept it as credit for the course itself or as elective credit, but it's really dependent upon the school of matriculation for the students. So this next chart shows you back since 2014. It breaks down the percentage of total AP students with scores of 3 and above. The left-hand column is here at Timberlane. That middle column, those are scores across the state in New Hampshire. And then that far right column you'll see is globally. We do not yet have the global score from the College Board. They haven't published that yet. We don't have access to that. But we've tried to include all of the other data. I want to emphasize that this looks at students, not exams. We are going to look at the number of exams in a little bit. But many of our students, I'd even say most AP students take more than one AP course. And you'll see that when you see the number of exams. So this looks at students. So if a student was in one AP course, they're included in this data. So you'll see that since 2017, we have been exceeding both the state and global averages for scores, qualifying scores. This chart looks at that same data, just in a slightly different manner. So the red bar reflects the percentage of Timberlane students with scores of 3 or above. That gray represents students in New Hampshire, and the yellow is globally. So it takes a look at trend lines, and while there is some fluctuation, you'll notice that the general overall trend is that across the state, those scores have been trending slightly down. Globally, they're fairly consistent, and at Timberlane, we are on an upward trend, again with some fluctuations, but generally trending upward. So this slide looks at, again, AP enrollment. So those first 3 columns on the left, you saw those when Mr. Pedersen was speaking about enrollment and the percentage of eligible students. So once again, just as a reminder, our AP courses are not open to freshmen right now. So when you see percentage of eligible school population, that reflects the total number of students in grades 10 through 12 in that given year. So you'll see these are AP students, percentage of available population, percentage of students with 3 or better, and then you'll see the number of exams. So this past year we had 142 AP students. Those students took 236 AP exams. Of those 236 exams, 164 had scores of 3 or above, which is 69% of the exams. So we broke that down, just a slightly different way of looking at that, of humanities versus STEM. So of those 236 exams, 90 of them were in the humanities courses, 74 were in STEM, the qualifying scores rather. So, and you'll see that percentage, which is fairly similar, 69% and 70% across the 2 different domains. So we have been focused on continual improvement with our AP program for quite some time, and I'm going to actually ask Mr. Pedersen to kind of share with you some of those ongoing practices that we've been engaging in with our teachers.
So we've been doing this for a number of years, these improvement practices where we review and analyze AP score reports. Those come out usually in the summer. So we release those to all those teachers. We encourage teachers to use them. Sometimes we will sit with teachers and go over their reports. We ask teachers to talk to other AP teachers and look at their reports, and really think about in the summer, really think about moving forward in the school year, what areas did the students from the previous year, maybe struggle with or really excel on, and kind of think about that as they plan out that upcoming school year. So we use those AP instructional planning reports to identify, like I said, those specific areas of attention and growth. And we encourage all AP teachers to participate in ongoing training and professional development. The board, you all have been very good about supporting teacher and professional development. And so teachers use that money to go to workshops, to go to online trainings, and they have a variety of different ways to get that ongoing training and professional development. So we continue to plan for effective AP curriculum instruction and assessment by ensuring, like as Sandy was saying earlier, ensuring that curriculum is aligned to the AP standards. As Sandy mentioned earlier, we use those varied instructional approaches. We use those AP release items. I know almost every single AP teacher is using those materials released from the AP board, whether it be old tests, old FRQs, old DBQs, the rubrics that they use, and they use them with the students as a teaching tool besides just an assessment tool. And we collaborate to increase the student participation in AP course selection and student success. We're going to continue to meet as a AP professional learning community, or a PLC, where these teachers are getting together and they're having really great conversations where they share and they discuss best practices. They review and analyze those AP assessment results. They're looking for ways to increase attention and curriculum focus. They talk about how they use those released AP items in their course assessments, and they kind of use each other as a sounding board and to figure out, hey, if it's working in your class, how can I get it to work in my class? So again, it's really coming from the teachers. As Sandy mentioned earlier, the teachers are using those testing time ratios, and in the block, it actually makes that very easy to do. Because they have that extended time to not only use that testing time ratio, but then have a little bit of time to sort of do a little bit of the pre and get the kids ready, maybe talk about it at the end. So the block is really, I think, valuable for that time. And then use AP release guidelines for the grading of, as I mentioned earlier, the FRQs, or the free response questions, and the document-based questions. So then we get into some final thoughts here. Similar to that group of 20 that we looked at earlier with the dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment, we looked at those as we were looking through the program of studies for those numbers. We were also looking at these schools and their program of studies for what are they offering for AP. So in that group of 20, Timberlane, where we looked at the dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment, we're kind of in the middle of the pack. In that group of 20, Timberlane's pretty close to the top of the pack there. You look at some other schools across the state, and we've doubled, if not some schools tripled or quadrupled what they're offering. Anecdotally, you hear from some students who go off to college and they come back and, they talk with these kids that they're meeting in college, and other kids are amazed at how many course offerings in AP
Timberlane does in fact have. So, you know, we just wanted to kind of look at where does Timberlane compare to maybe some other schools. And then finally, it's our goal, and we think that this is going to continue, where Timberlane students are going to continue to outperform state and global averages. And as Sandy pointed out in the very beginning, you know, all of our students are taking the AP exam, whereas most of those other schools, with the exception of one on that list, they all self-select which kids, they kind of cherry pick which kids get to take the exam. You know, and where we're making all of our students take it, and we're still competing with all of those schools and out-competing and outperforming all those schools.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Just curious, who's that other one?
The one that I'm aware of is Sanborn. Timberlane will continue to require all AP students to take the exam, as I just mentioned, and we're not going to just settle we're outperforming the state and global average, but you know, maybe that's just not good enough. We need to continue to improve that and get more access to all courses for all students. So we're looking to constantly just make sure that we're doing the best we can for all of our students.
Thank you. To take any questions.
Jen?
You said something that I was really happy to hear you say, because I was going to ask about it. On the lines of AP pathways.
Mm-hmm.
Because when I looked at the class enrollments that we got for this year, there were a couple of things that jumped out to me. Looking at specifically those freshman level classes and the number of students who are taking the ACC level classes versus the CCP level classes. Not to say that a CCP student will never take an AP class, but typically that's not a pathway, correct, to an AP class. You know, the number of freshmen for the English 1 that are in the ACC is 37% this year. Last year it was 46%, so that dropped a bit. I think we have 10 or 12% of the students taking the combined science class as freshmen.
The integrated course.
The integrated course, yep. 29% are taking the ACC level, but 59% are taking the CCP level physical science class. World languages, I don't know what's going on there, but it seems like world languages, more students are coming in taking 1 rather than 2 out of the middle school. So I don't know if that's something that is being looked at as far as, you know, if our freshmen aren't being prepared on that pathway, then those numbers are going to go down.
I think it's hard. I appreciate actually looking at the percentages, because I have not looked at it through that lens, and I think that's a good way to look at it, and we can certainly take that look and talk to our teachers about it. But I do think it's important to consider these are different cohorts of students. So yes, this year's freshman class may look that way. It's hard to know if that is a pattern or a trend or something to be alarmed at, or if this is simply a characteristic of that incoming group of kids. Oftentimes, in conversations with the middle school teachers, I know that they sometimes will recommend students for accelerated courses. And students or parents, for whatever reason, may consult with a guidance counselor and choose that instead we think CCP is the right place to start, and then perhaps try an accelerated course in their sophomore year. So there are so many variables that come into play in those decisions, but it certainly is something to look at. And in talking with the AP teachers, I know Mr. Pedersen mentioned that one of their ideas was to have departmental conversations about how to have some of those freshman and sophomore teachers really encourage and talk with their students about what those that course sequence might look like, especially if the teachers see ability in the kids and feel it's something that they could be successful with. So.
Yeah, and I just want to, I never want to sort of pigeonhole a kid as just a CCP kid or just an accelerated kid. I mean, I know that we have numerous children that at the end of, or towards the end of, you know, their freshman year, if they're in a CCP science class and they're just really excelling, you know, maybe they sort of
blossomed at some point, and they get moved up to that next level. I never want to say that a kid's sort of out of that pathway, because there are multiple ways to sort of get there, and we do have kids sort of jumping to that next level when they mature at a certain point, and they start showing that they can do that work, and they are driven to do that work. We have some kids coming out of the middle school that just really aren't aware even that APs are a thing. And so
That was kind of my point, looking at, because I do think it goes back even further, you're right, to the middle school, and when they're in 8th grade, coming out of 8th grade, and really understanding what that trajectory looks like and how they're going to get there, and maybe they're feeling a little bit nervous about taking an ACC level class. I know, I went through this with my own children, I'm like, it's a class just like you're taking a class now, it's not something to be nervous about or afraid about. You can do the work. Just trying to support them a little bit more through that.
Yeah, and that's great, and I think having those conversations at an earlier age with kids when they're ready for it, I think is valuable to let them know that those are options.
I also would add, though, Mark and I have both taught AP. And I taught AP French for several years, and I did have students come directly out of a level 4 CCP French class and score qualifying scores on the AP exam. So as he said, it's not out of the realm of possibility, and we do have a rigorous program even at the CCP level, and we try to prepare those kids. So it's important data to look at, though.
Lee? So it's nice to see that we're exceeding the state and the global scores. What stood out to me, though, is that seems like since 17 we're on a downward slide, both in enrollment and test scores. So talk me off the ledge. Why should I not be concerned about that?
Yeah, 2017 seemed to be a bit of a bubble, to be honest. So high enrollment,
It was a huge
really high
jump in
scores. Yeah, it
scores.
was. So we're watching it. I don't after 2 years out, I don't know that we have the exact answer of what's going on, but we're certainly looking at it.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just an anomaly bubble.
Yeah.
But you're right. Is it that we're going back down, or is it that we were sort of level, and that was just a bump? That we don't know yet.
But even let's take 17 out. We still see some percentage points drop from 18 to 19.
Yep.
And even with the number of eligible students.
Yep.
That dropped off. So,
Yep.
When I see a point tick by, I don't get too concerned.
Sure.
You start to get 2-3 points.
Yep.
No, it's good.
Yeah.
Can you go back to that slide again? The one that Lee's referring to? Is that one you've got up? Yeah, that's
one.
No, the one that was the one you had up. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I think that the second column over is the best one to use. That percent of eligible student population. That's been pretty consistent.
Okay. Sheila?
You need to start at the middle school level. That 2017 bump, second child syndrome, right, John? Second child syndrome. We had the first one go through. We learned a lot. We knew what to do, what not to do, what classes were who, where they should be heading towards on what they wanted to do in colleges, what the colleges were expecting. The first one was the test. Let's call it that one. The second one that graduated in 17, I had my stuff together. I knew what was going on. There's parents out there that just don't know. CCP classes, back when I was going, was college prepare classes.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
They were the higher level classes because you were getting prepared to go to college. They were college level classes. So for me, this ACC, CCP thing, I wasn't quite sure what was going on. And I literally walked into the guidance counselor and said, "You're going to be my best friend." That was Heather Roy. Because I did not know how to get my child to that point. So it's got to start in middle school. It's got to start at that 8th grade level.
It does. So Mr. Children and his counselors, they do have parent information nights. They hold one at the midpoint of the year, each year, for the 8th grade parents and students. It's when they see the program of studies. It's when they make them aware of certain opportunities. I think they reference that integrated science course that's available at the freshman level. They do talk to them in that way. AP, because it's not an option for 9th graders. Traditionally, the nights that I've been there, has not been a topic of conversation. It can certainly be something that we talk to the counseling department about to include. That being said, I do think it's important to acknowledge that we sat here and heard all of our elementary school principals. They all had an elementary goal, or academic goal rather, but we, in this day and age, are really trying to wrap around our students in terms of the whole child and their social and emotional needs as well as their academic needs. And the AP program is very rigorous, and it's not to say that not all students should have access to that, but it's not for all kids. And I certainly, when I think about the middle school level, when there's a focus on helping those students to develop effective ways of interacting socially, they're going through adolescence, they're trying to learn how to really become a young adult, that sometimes putting the pressure on at too young of an age in 7th grade to say you have to take this course if you're going to be successful in life may not always be.
That's what I said.
No, it's not. I'm just saying we want to be mindful of not telling them it's the only way they can get there. So we can have those conversations about signing up for accelerated classes, and that integrated class for science, for example, can get you to AP Bio at an earlier grade level, or it's an easy pathway. But we also want to make sure that they understand that there are multiple pathways and options for all kids. So dual enrollment might be an option for some students who want early college credit, but AP may not be the right option. So just not trying to put words in your mouth.
No, what I'm saying is the parents need to be educated, because a
Sure.
lot of them don't even know what a dual enrollment is.
Sure.
Well, yeah, and
yeah.
Sorry.
So Sheila does make a good point that you got to look beyond 1 year at a time here.
Sure.
So if I have an 8th grade, I don't know, grandchild, and I was trying to help him work his way through, you can't just look at one small window. And I agree with you, the maturity level to think that as a junior, I'm going to be taking AP biology just because my grandmother wants me to. I'm not quite mature enough to make those decisions, but I think parents deserve to know at that 8th grade parent night, look, you need to look beyond just a small window. I know you're thankful your 8th grader is graduating and moving to the high school, but you got to look way ahead. So I think it would behoove us if our counselors did say, let's look at some of those pathways here.
Can
And I
certainly
agree
do
with
that.
Sheila. Well,
Yeah.
I'm in that same, boat.
A few years
CCP.
ago-
It's that age group that
Sure.
when I went to high school, CP was
Yeah.
college prepared.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden it changed.
Yeah, and dual enrollment
And
opportunities.
I had to wrap my mind around it.
Yeah, and those are fairly new. We did add to the program of studies through a request that came through the Curriculum and Assessment Committee maybe 3 years ago. We added to that document pathways. So there are pages in there that spell out for parents and students, if you think you are interested in STEM, a rigorous 4-year university, here are recommended course pathways in each department. So that is in there, however, highlighting that verbally at the meeting. We can certainly request.
This is almost just a primer for the next time I appear before all of you with the program of studies, where, after it goes to print, in January, Mr. Children and his staff go down to the middle school, and every 8th grader gets one of those. And what we encourage them to do is take it home, sit down, read it with their families. A lot of schools are going to the digital online version and digital online only. And Mr. Children really feels strongly that, sitting down with that book, sitting with families and looking through it, and really using that to make those decisions is critical. So, that's it. I think it's good that the
viewing public is hearing this, and to look forward to that program of studies to sort of think about making those decisions. We can work harder at getting some copies of it down in the middle school available to kids if they want it and things like that. So great suggestions.
Yep. And I believe they hand that out at the evening that we're referencing.
Correct, I
Yep,
believe so.
So parents leave with a copy of that document.
Jen?
I take that book out every quarter. I have one for each of my kids. I really do like having that book.
Yeah.
But as a parent, I will share that, and I'm sure, you all know, we all want to try and set our students up for success.
Sure.
And sometimes we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
Until, maybe they're a sophomore and we say, oh gosh, if we had known that in 8th grade, no, you're not going to push your child to do something that's going to set them up for failure, but really understanding what those pathways are and how to try and set up that pathway and that trajectory, to help them reach the highest level that they can achieve, knowing that you can certainly alter that course, but it's really important for parents to understand that.
We could even explore, we talked about those departmental conversations for planning the pathways. We do have throughout the year opportunities for the middle and high school teachers to meet within a department. So even having those conversations with the 8th grade teachers. And I know Mr. Children goes down to their team meetings with Mr. Mensas to talk about the course selection process with the teachers as well. So that could be another avenue to share that information. So when they're meeting with their students one-on-one in 8th grade, they can share that information then too.
Great, thank you.
Sorry, one quick thing. I don't know why we're not having students take courses at NECO. Why are we not doing that?
We're looking at that actually.
So
I don't need. We're trying to move the meeting along here.
Yeah.
I don't need an explanation.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear we're finally looking at it.
We are.
2, this idea that dual enrollment is going to allow. I don't know if this is happening with other students. Dual enrollment was not accepted at the college where my daughter went because it was taken during high school, and they wouldn't accept it. I don't know. So I don't know if your dual enrollment is really doing what you think it's doing.
It's interesting because the question that I was going to ask was, if you take a course, it gets credited to SNHU, so that if you actually pull the transcript from SNHU, you're going to have an English class, for example, you get a B or whatever in the course. When you go off to a respected student goes off to a college and university, they're going to have whatever field they choose. There's going to be a lot of common courses that would be like, if you're in a STEM kind of, you're going to take these humanities. An English course would be something that's, probably a high probability to be transferred in. And you don't have to look at it just at, if I'm not going to SNHNU for my college, I'm not going to take the course because it's just going to sit, I'm going to take it and never use it. You really can use it because it gets into the SNHU transcript umbrella, but then at that point you can transfer that to the college that you're going to.
No.
And that's my question.
What I just said was it's not doing that.
And that's an interesting.
It should be
in a lot of the schools.
So that's
a lot of schools, because you're taking it in high school. They will not, even if you have a college transcript, they're not letting it count. So that dual enrollment. This is why I'm pushing NECO, because take the class at NECO, and then they're going to
take it at a college.
Take it at a college and transfer back to the high school versus the other way around. Because it's not working the other way around. It doesn't work that way. So this dual enrollment. Maybe Southern New Hampshire will take it, but I can tell you other colleges are not taking it. If the kids are taking it in high school, it's part of fulfillment of their high school.
In high school, they're taking it at high school.
No, they're taking it during high school.
During their high school. Sue, do you agree with me?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so I don't.
So if they take it at NECO
as a high school student.
So it's not about being a high school age, it's about the location where you take it.
That's correct.
Is that what I'm
where it's
understanding?
being taught.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting, because I would have hoped that it was.
And that's
pretty
not
much
everything.
as if
That's
you
not a
took it.
universal statement.
Yeah,
No.
it's not. I mean, there's anecdotal evidence that out west, there's kids graduating high school with an associate's degree.
Yeah.
That's not anecdotal, that's true. It's true.
Well, I don't have the data in front of.
And South, right?
And then the South, Florida's
my
the same
son
way.
goes to UNT, and his roommate had graduated with his associates, a business associate's degree.
From high school.
So, from high school. So he's a freshman, but he's taking junior and senior level business classes.
Yeah.
And those
I mean,
transferred over.
that's what I'm
Those, all
saying,
that
when you're,
stuff transferred over.
when you're talking about NECO, that you could be doing that. And
I
helping
just
these
don't know
kids.
if the student took those classes at his high school or
Or
if at a college. He just graduated, he took the courses while he was in high school, graduated with his high school degree and his associates at the same time.
That would be really interesting if you could
Yeah,
get back
no,
to
and
us on
that's
that,
something
though. I'd
that
be
I've-
really interested
Well,
in hearing about that.
I mean, Snoo, I talked to Snoo actually a couple weeks ago about, your concern. And they will not give a list of all the colleges that will or will not accept a SNU transcript. I mean, in what they've explained to me is that is a SNU transcript. Nowhere on the SNU transcript does it say taken during high school at Timberlane. It's a SNU transcript because the teacher at Timberlane is a certified adjunct professor through SNU. Now, I know that some colleges will not accept a SNU transcript.
It's not that, it's that the registrar will look at the date the student took the class and see the student was in high school and took the class to fulfill a high school retirement, and that's what it is. So it's no slam against SNU. The colleges take SNU's transcripts. That's not the issue. It's the timing of the course and where it's taken.
So yes, it happens at some schools. It doesn't happen at all schools, and that's what SNU is saying is that yes, it will
Well, they
happen in
want
some
you to
schools.
Come to my school. They want you to come to Sanu.
Well, yeah, that's what that's about.
They don't want you to go to Colby. They want you to come to Sanu.
Okay, anybody else have any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, thank you. Nicely done.
Go over the budgets, Jeff?
Go ahead and take one. Nice. How are you? It's a wake-up break.
Yeah, I did. I was like in a daze. I can't look at budgets right now. Can't look at budgets right now. Just don't have it in me.
Oh, come on, you can do it. I believe in you.
I need a ruler.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, I believe you should have in front of you an updated version of both the operating and the default budget. So the operating budget has a cover sheet indicating draft 3 is currently at $74,311,144. And that represents a 1.34% increase over the voted budget last year and a 1.68% increase without consideration of the capital reserve. I have a list of changes. We did make a number of changes, but a number of them impacted the fall budget. So the ones that have impacted the operating budget are listed. There wasn't a whole lot of activity. The first, our first change in draft number 2 really featured the correction for insurance, and that was a $1 million, almost $1.1 million pickup from the original budgeted amount. So I'm happy to entertain any questions that you have or any comments or concerns, and if I can't get an answer for you, I'd love to be able to get one back to
I find a
you.
little obscure stuff, I swear I do.
Well, you're the one that found the board. Yes.
I find a little obscure stuff. Very last line.
Which one are you doing?
Performing Arts Center.
Default budget, Sheila? or the
No, I am on the
proposed?
operating budget.
Yeah.
Actually,
What
default
page?
either one. Last page, last line. Okay. Jeff, help me. What happened in 17-18?
I think that's a revenue line, isn't it?
Fund transfer.
Is that a revenue line or is that a expend line?
So it's a revenue offset line, which is the expenditure. So whatever revenue the Performing Arts Center is projected to bring in, we recognize that on the expense side as well, with the idea that they'd be spending that theoretically.
Theoretically.
Yep. And they usually do.
Okay.
Any questions, comments?
I just have a question on the default budget. Last time we talked about bringing the salaries in the default budget in line with the other salaries.
Let's take a look. Let's get over
And
that.
I
default
don't-
budget real quick.
I'm just doing a quick look, and I don't see that to be the case.
Which salaries?
Well, I haven't looked at them all, but let's start with the 112.
We're in the default, correct?
Well, the default has 16,859, and the proposed has 16,746. We discussed the fact that it didn't make sense for the default budget to be higher than what you're proposing. I thought, didn't we have this discussion last time?
We did.
Yes.
I think the answer and the cause as to why we've had some movement in some positions and that sort of thing, so I can make a note to ascertain the reason why.
So yeah, I would agree that that should be moved to 17.746 million. To be the same as the proposed.
And I'm still concerned on the default budget. You've got lines like, and again, it's your call. You're going to be defending this budget. Should someone take us to court this year?
I will be defending the lines that I can support.
Well, then can you explain to me why, like the 1,100, 734? So are you saying you can't support all these lines?
If a change is made by the board, and I'm not able to support that change, I can't support it. If a change is made by the board that I can support, I can support it.
Okay, so are there any changes that have been made by the board that you are not able to support up to this point?
There's been some movement up and down in some lines, and I think that, you know, looking at what we have here in the default, for example, we're showing the amount that was voted last year in that 112. I add to it the increase, is the contractually voted increase to that line. I've done that, and now I'm being asked to take the line down.
Whoa, wait.
So you're not supporting that line?
I can tell you that if we have an increase that was voted by the voters, I've included that.
I'm confused then. Well, why wouldn't it be in the proposed budget?
We have situations that we may have an employee who leaves, where that employee is replaced by a lower cost employee.
Correct.
That's a contractual change.
That's a contractual change, so why wouldn't that carry over to
The default.
the default?
That was specifically looked at in the legislation. If you want me to do that, I can, but I can't support it.
I'm trying to wrap my head around it, Jeff, to be honest
No,
with you.
I know.
I'm really trying to wrap my head around that.
And I do want this to be a collaborative process. If you'd like me to make it lower, I can. Kristen, you seem very upset. Is it late?
Yeah, it is late, and that just doesn't make sense.
Okay, that's fine. If you want me to change it, change it.
Well, I mean, I don't want you to change it just because
You want it.
we're saying we want you to change it. I do hope that we can, everybody understand it, because when the proposed is one number, the 16.7 number, we're not, so.
Those are the contractual obligations.
Right. So I don't know how the default can be higher than what the proposed.
The proposed, all I'm doing is taking the amount that was voted last year, right? And then the amount that was voted for the union warrant article.
Yep.
Taking that voted amount, adding it to the union warrant article.
So you're not taking out less contractual obligations
I'm
that
not.
have changed over.
I'm not taking that out because that is not what the legislature had indicated in their drafting of the statute. Turnover savings was not something that they had removed.
But yet, I'm sorry, I'm still trying to figure this out. But yet, when you were in court, it was lowered by contractual obligation, am I correct?
That's correct.
What was low?
So, I guess what we would need then, what proves the contractual obligation?
What proves the contractual obligation? That-
We have no contractual obligation on that line next year at all, do we?
No, I guess what I'm saying is,
We don't have to renew anyone, do we? Technically.
I guess what I'm saying is the difference between somebody retiring and hiring brand new in
Yeah.
at a 20,000 or 30,000 or whatever difference is the contractual obligation difference of 100,000 or whatever the difference is here.
Okay. I'm not,
That's where my brain is.
Okay. Let me ask another question. So right now, you're willing to support this budget, and if it should be taken to court, go to court with it. Is that what you're saying? If we don't change anything? Or are there lines
I
that
believe
you
we
have
made
a
some
problem
changes
with?
last week.
Excuse me?
We made some changes last
Then,
week.
then I would like to direct the administration to tell me by line and function code which lines you don't support, and then I think we need to have this discussion next time.
I don't know that we've been able to have a tremendous amount of success having that discussion in the past. I will tell you my rationale, and you can adopt it or not. It's fair.
No, no,
Sure,
I do agree
that's
that's
fair.
fair.
I'm just trying to figure out now which, I thought last time that we were in agreement, but clearly we're not. So can we have it by account and function code, which lines you're not in agreement with?
Because that really defines it. It's
And-
like, of all these lines, the SAU, meaning Jeff would be the one defending that number, and then ones that we deviate from that line item,
Yeah,
the onus would be on this board to support it.
And along with that, please give us what you think the amount should be for that line.
I think that conversation that we had last meeting came up in the context of the 4,600 account, I believe the 400,000 that was in there. I could support that. But I can take a look and let you know if there are any that I have a question on. I'll let you know my rationale, and
No, that's fine, if you have your rationale, I understand that, you're gonna, put your stake in the ground per se.
No.
But, wrong term, please, all right, it's basically what you believe is your interpretation of that, and what you believe that you can defend. If this board takes that under consideration, we agree with it, we'll leave that respective line, as is.
I think it's a great discussion.
And then, but if the board should take a direction that it wants to make adjustments to that, then yes, you no longer own it, we would own it to defend it.
Since it's in court, we're gonna have to look at the list. Is that Jeff's line?
Jeff's.
Well, that's what I want.
Not be in
I
court
know,
over
it's
it,
the best
I would
honestly.
like to not be in court over it, but I want to know which lines are being defended by the SAU.
Yeah.
And which lines will not be. I don't want to find out in December, January, February, when somebody takes us to court, that now the school board is left holding
Yep.
the defense of the budget.
Okay, so we table on this now till next meeting?
I think there's
Because
an action for the next meeting.
Is consensus of the board?
Yeah.
Is that good enough? If you got any questions relative to that?
No.
I should have grabbed you earlier, then you could have gone to
That's right.
I hate to say it, though, I've said all along, I'd like to have the discussion, and this provides a nice forum to have that, so I think that'll.
No, it is. It's been-
Can I ask Jeff one question?
Go ahead.
Before you leave,
More than one drink.
before you leave. Financial, financials for
Oh.
this year's, budget, as by month?
Yes,
Yeah.
they're
Do
posted.
you have any, I don't have September or October's up there yet. I have up until
No.
August,
Aha.
the
Okay.
1920. I was just wondering,
Check and see if September did not get posted. If not, I will get it out there right away, and October will be,
well, I figured in a few
Few days,
weeks,
yeah.
but
October's not, yeah.
yeah.
September wasn't
September's
there.
not posted, I'll get it up there for you.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
That's it. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jeff.
Very well.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, our next one on here is the warrant articles. As you can see in our packets, we have the warrant articles. The only thing that would be, that we could update now is, well, they're all warrant article XX, but it's the 3-year collective bargaining agreement. with Teamsters Local 633, those numbers can now be filled in, and so we can have that.
No, the TSSU.
No, not that one.
TSSU. That's the one you can update now.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It'll be Article.
I'll use that sheet that you gave me.
Yes, no, it's up.
Page
it's
2,
up-
second page below capital reserve fund.
Yeah.
That's the one.
I stand corrected.
Dr.
So that one can be updated with the respective, numbers, and, you can actually put in there as, since the board voted to approve that, I'm assuming that that's the same vote that would be in there for recommended, not recommended?
No.
No.
You would not do that until after
No, we
Yeah.
do the warrant articles at the end.
public hearing.
At the end of public.
We're a little early in this one.
Yeah, a little early for that.
This is a great template to see, but we don't need to take any action on this tonight, other than have her put the numbers in that article, but.
You had also had some conversation, Dr. Fair had brought it up a couple of times about 250 to 500,000 for capital reserve. Is that a conversation you want to have now with it, or do you want to save that for another day?
Another day.
And do you want to book a work session to work out your warrant articles, or are you just happy to go along like you are?
I think if we touch them a little bit each time, I think we could do that, but if we want any, if anybody wants to submit one, or talked about one, if they want to forward me something.
So it'll be a standing item on your
Okay. Yeah, no,
agendas
that's
moving
fine.
forward? Yeah.
So, we'll go that route. Okay, policies. Next, we're second read. Below the policies. Jen, Lee, would you like to take this one?
We already went through them all last week, right?
I'll make a motion to accept as a second read.
Second?
The whole packet.
Yeah.
Yep, so it's, policies 1 through 7 there.
And that was seconded by whom?
Me.
Sheila did.
Can we do all of them since the first one's slated for repeal? Just do that one separately?
I don't,
Except the first, well, it'd still be accepting to repeal it. I mean, you have done it, you have broken it out before.
Yeah. Fine either way.
Do you want me to break it out? Would it make it cleaner?
I don't
So-
think we need to, do we?
It's just two simple motions, so we'll do 2 through 7. Dr. Fair, do you want to approve 2 through 7 for
Yeah,
second read?
approve 2 through 7 for second read and repeal policy 1. I'm gonna
Second
change the
that.
motion.
Repeal, yeah, AB.
AB,
Okay.
policy
Is that
AB.
cleaner?
Yep, it is.
And it's 1.
Yeah, this one.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, call for a vote, all those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Administrators report. Ms. Frank Scott. Been quiet all evening.
I know, I'm not really a loud voice in the crowd, but we do have a few items here, 5 items, materials in the board packet you have. You should have 7 executive summaries, videography videographer training, sorry, VLAX, evening division, the No Bully grant update. You don't have a summary there, but I'm here, so I can give you that. Unfilled positions, Title IX athletic review, and the patriotic exercises. There's also an enrollment by town in there.
That's for Sheila.
And then we have NEAS questions for the upcoming visit, which is soon to be here.
It's the 17th of November.
It is. I believe it's a Sunday for some of us, and then Monday in that week, midweek, they end. Dr. Metzler has accepted a donation for $500 from Walmart for the Youth and Government Club, and we'd like to extend a special thanks to Walmart for their generosity and partnership. The unified basketball team, Timberlane High, is in the process of starting a unified basketball team in which special education students partnered with members of the Best Buddies program, and they'll participate in the NHIAA recreational division. The team will play about 4 games in a season and practice once a week. The team is to be led by 2 coaches, one from the special education staff and another existing coach. This is absolutely a wonderful opportunity and an inclusive opportunity for the students here at Timber Lane. We also want to call your attention, in your packet, you have the calendar, school calendar. We did make an adjustment. We originally had sent to you a January Professional Development Day, and now that Professional Development Day is February 11th. I believe I was the one who had a presenter scheduled for January. That has been changed and updated, so we don't anticipate any bumps in the road, so to speak, in terms of professional development going forward in that February time frame. And the no bullying funding, if I...
Do you need us to approve this calendar, or is this?
Yes.
No, I don't think you need to approve it because it was a place saver. So the original calendar at the bottom said that January 28th was a placeholder, subject to change, so it didn't really require the board's action.
Thank you.
Thank you for asking that.
Questions on that? No? Okay. And then the last one, there was a request regarding the no bully and the funding, if it's grant funded. If you recall, the George family gave a generous donation, and it was through the Department of Health and Human Services. Right now, the Department of Health and Human Services is under total restructure because of the federal audit they had. It's part of what you've been hearing in terms of Medicaid. So we don't have the grant funding for that. I have used a line item in our budget for the school counselors, and that was paid July 1.
So we're not getting reimbursed for that at all?
Not at this time.
What's the cost of that now? So that's basically
Thank you.
going to be absorbed by the district now, so.
It's been paid, and we used a line item in school counseling. I don't have the line item.
What happened was, Sean, that the way they do it is that the money goes into the budget, and then once the grant comes in, it comes in as revenue to offset it.
It's front-loaded.
It's front-loaded.
Okay.
We were supposed to get 2 payments of $65,000.
That's right.
So the first one came in, now we're saying the second one's not, so it came out of our budget. So what we need, so that's a 2-year program, and then that's all for that,
That's
correct?
correct.
So we need to make sure that that money is backed out for the next budget, this budget that we're talking about. Do you know what I'm saying? Because we had the,
Correct.
yeah. Okay.
That's the interesting thing, so front-loaded, grant doesn't come through, we're down 65K. Are there any mechanisms in place for us to, when the Health and Human Services Department restructure is complete, to go back and try to recoup those funds?
It's a great question, and it is on our docket to watch that.
Okay.
To be honest, there is Medicaid funding that they're working on now to get ready for the vote in January, February timeline, and that has been all-consuming for them at the state level, because it has required a lot of restructuring.
I just think it's disheartening when somebody, some entity grants you these funds, and you're basing that program off of those funds, and then all of a sudden they yank the carpet out from underneath.
And you've committed to the program.
And you're committed to the program. I mean, especially in this case,
Particular
you're halfway
topic.
through it. I mean,
Yeah,
so
That's too bad.
just poor management.
Yeah, we are watching it, though.
Thank you.
Thank you for the update.
You're welcome.
Just one thing on the evening division, you know, when I calculate out the cost of this and the number of courses, it's looking about $15,000 a course in the evening division.
Can we go back to that next?
I had some concerns when I looked through the numbers.
It's a very, for the number, yeah.
We're down 38% in enrollment.
And the
evening
cost
division.
is, like I said, I just ran it's about 15,000 a course. I'm not sure why we're doing that.
Number of courses where if you look over the last X number of years, there's only been one session that ever had any enrollment.
Let's,
Can we put that on the next agenda?
agenda item?
I'd like to revisit it.
The topic.
See your next agenda,
Is it crazy?
because I've already added, I think, 2 more things that I didn't get in time to get on this today. I think they were significant, too. They
So
came out of
is it
curriculum.
crazy?
marathon night?
One is program of studies along with a first read for some computer science curriculum. So there's one. And there was a second thing I added. And I don't remember what it was. So if you know that there are still 2 more items on that agenda and you want to add that, that's fine. I just want to let you know.
Okay. So if we could put the, put that on there?
Should we be looking to maybe add a meeting in December?
Oh, God.
I hate to say December, but.
I don't know what we have for meetings.
So if we can just back up for 1 minute. So you're asking to put eating division on. I think you need to clarify for the people who are going to present what is it you're looking for, so that it can be presented. If you've got questions, they can prepare for it.
And does it have to go through the curriculum committee first?
Does it?
Which would mean
It's almost like a December 5th might be I'm just trying to think about
December 5th
fairness.
is ugly also. I'm
There- I
thinking
know.
the
Yeah,
19th.
We'd have to, that would give us a chance to meet.
That way you can post what it is that you're looking for, so that they can prepare for it.
I heard
But-
cost.
All right,
I
if we
heard
put it
cost.
off to the 19th,
Who is,
what's that?
who's in charge?
Would it be acceptable to everybody send in their questions that they would want to have the presenters present for that evening? I'll aggregate all of them, give them to Kathy.
Yeah, right, and the whole point is getting it in advance enough time for them to be able to.
And then get
Or
them
what
to
you
the
need,
curriculum
right.
committee so that they can address those
So,
questions.
let's say
By
by.
December 1? Is that
Well,
enough
I'll
time?
get you the questions by, let's say, a week from today, is that
Yeah.
acceptable?
Okay,
I just haven't even had time to look at it, to be honest with you.
So within a week, I'll give you the aggregate of the questions, and then we'll
SAT
schedule them
stuff.
for the December
And-
19th meeting then?
Star.
Will go that well? Okay, moving on to personnel reports.
you've got that in there too, I'm
Yeah, I
sorry.
do.
That one I did not.
No, I just.
December 19 meeting.
And I just read these off, right?
You do, yeah.
Okay, so
Can I
we,
ask a question about one of these? I'm sorry, this
That's okay.
executive summary.
Yeah, bring it
This
back.
Title IX review.
Yeah.
There is a recommendation in here. Is that something that is going to need some approval from us, or, I would agree with that recommendation, but I don't know if there's something more that we need to do to make that move forward.
Yeah, you might want to have a
Holding
conversation with Mr.
access.
Fantasia first to find out
Right.
what he suggests for a recommendation. Or what, I'm sure he's looking for your support, but he might have an idea of what that support might look like. I don't know the answer.
Thing to
I've got
add,
a
I'm sorry.
recommendation here.
No, to when? So as
Well,
long
I
as you
mean,
can
if
do it
it's
enough
something that's
time.
gonna require some
Budgeting, that's where I'm thinking, yeah.
spend.
Sooner the better.
I don't know if he needs to level
He
the
is
access.
I
available.
think he's meeting like
I don't
3 and
think he's
3,
available
right?
on the 5th,
Or
though.
3
I'm
and 3.
just gonna read, I just wanna read some of the, because I feel like I'm talking and anybody watching has no idea what we're talking about, but it's a Title IX review of the athletic department. Overall, the teams have equal access to indoor, outdoor facilities, including varsity fields, practice, game schedules, equipment, and supplies. In regards to locker room access at the high school, my recommendation is to level the access to the locker rooms, because there are 2 locker rooms for females, and males have 4 locker rooms. So I think he means level the access, meaning 3
3 and
versus
3.
3. Yes.
I mean, the participation is
Right.
about the same,
Yes.
about the same. One of those locker rooms has always been the football locker room, so we don't offer football for girls. So somebody's gonna lose a locker room.
Or share.
Share. I don't think we're gonna share.
Well, we're talking about.
No, I'm talking about sports, yeah, I'm not talking about gender, I'm talking about sports.
We got a 5-year facility plan scheduled for the 21st. Why doesn't he piggyback onto that? It's part of
Well,
facility.
he's actually coming in on the 5th to do his action plan for his department.
Okay.
He could
maybe this is
prepare,
part
I
of it.
put the notes in, and he could prepare to be able to respond to
Perfect,
that.
thank you.
Is that helpful?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
No, you're not sharing gender.
Now we're back onto the personnel report.
okay, so we have
Here.
resignations, in science, Amanda Komarak. Nominations, a professional, Tamsin Walker, Timberlane Regional High School readings interventionist. And we do have a retirement professional, Linda Janvrin, a grade 3 teacher at Sandown North with 19 years in the district.
I'll make a motion to accept the resignation of Amanda Komarak, the nomination of Tamsin Walker, and with great gratitude, this broke my heart when I read it, the retirement of Linda Janvin. Thank you, Linda, for everything.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. All right, ready to vote. All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Committee reports. Anything, Jen?
The withdrawal committee met, what was that, on Monday?
Yes, it was.
And approved, made changes to the language in the liability section of the withdrawal plan and re-voted the plan. Now is 6 in favor, none against, and 1 member was absent. Dr. Metzler was not at that meeting. The plan is already been set up to DOE, so I anticipate that will be on their agenda November 21st.
Karen Steele's gonna go to the.
Karen Steele is going to go, it's up in Woodsville, New Hampshire.
Very far. Nice ride.
I'm not going. Okay. Everybody, policy guys, anything?
Went great. Good meeting. We spent a lot of time, almost all of our time, on the student representative to the school board policy. Wish Kyle was here. We could tell him how much time we spent on him. But no, good meeting tonight. Good.
The only reason we spent a lot of time on that one particular one, not that we're trying to pick on the student representative, but the Timberlane policy was very, very long. It was like 2 pages long. The New Hampshire School Board Association one was half a page long. So just trying to meld the two together for one policy that reflected what we hear is Timberlane felt was important to add into the very skimmed down one from New Hampshire School Board Association.
I will say, this is one of the policies that was specific to Timberlane that I felt was better written than the NHSBA framework.
Okay, thank you. Sheila? Kristen? Brian? Sarah?
You
Oh,
skipped
sorry.
one.
No, I
Go ahead, Sue, go ahead.
We're trying to get together a CIP meeting. The Wellness Committee's gonna meet the first week in December.
Correct.
The Thursday, so the 5th, add something else to the 5th. We have a core facilities meeting planned on the 12th of November. And we have a safety meeting planned, I believe, that same day. She's gonna do curriculum.
Yeah, so the bulk of our curriculum assessment meeting was spent on reviewing and discussing the presentation we saw earlier. We also did review 2 new textbooks that will be presented in the future, one for chemistry, CCP, and one for physics, accelerated and AP. And then we also reviewed the edit, it was like a first look at the edits of the program of studies, the updates, what Mrs. Belcher alluded to earlier to the computer science offerings, and both of those will be presented at the next meeting with the program of studies.
Can I ask you a question about that? Sure. Why would chemistry CCP need a different textbook than?
So, and when the textbooks are presented, Mr. Guanci will definitely go into more detail. But this one that they're looking at, it's in both cases, it's aged. Both textbooks for both the physics and the chemistry classes are old, like 90s. But the chemistry textbook for CCP, it's written more it includes more visuals to conceptualize like what they're being taught and what they're doing. It's not as dry, and that was really the information, from what I understand, is just presented in a way that breaks it down a little bit easier for those learners to pick up. But and those are just my notes. But obviously, when he presents the books for our approval, he'll go into more detail to express the difference between what they're currently using and what
It's a different style book.
Different style, yeah.
I always thought it was the same
New-
concepts you're teaching, just.
Well, it may be the same fact, but it's
Yeah.
it's the style you present it in.
The way that it's presented.
A more modern, global approach, other than just spitting out
Just
factoids.
facts and
I think every student would benefit from that.
All right, thank you. All right, vendor payroll, everybody, that's already gone down. Any other business to come before the board? Okay. I'm gonna have request for a non-public, but I will be quick with it, so I don't think it's gonna take that long. In regards to legal,
Al?
yes, L. Okay, so let's seek a non-public.
that motion.
Under RSA 91A:3, paragraph 2, section L.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Seconded by Sheila. Roll call vote?
Mr. Boyle?
Yes.
Mr. Dubey?
Yes.
Dr. Farah?
Yep.
Ms. Lowe's?
Yes.
Ms. Markimer?
yes.
Mr. O'Neill?
Yes.
Mrs. Savage?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherman?
Yes.
And Mrs. Silva?
Yes.
You're in at 10:31.